The school beauty didn't get first place and cried so hard tears streamed down her face. My boyfriend picked up a basketball and hurled it hard straight at my face in front of the entire class. Who told you to steal her first place? I covered my face, blood streaming down between my fingers. Yet there was a ding in my mind. Congratulations, host. Your endurance value is now full. Reward being issued. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and smiled. Thanks for that shot. Back. And from both sides, slapping each of them once. The whole class fell into a deathly silence, and the scumbag and the campus Belle were completely stunned. The report cards were H and out. Suyaki's eyes turned red. She lay on the desk, her shoulders shaking. Several girls around her gathered over and comforted her in low voices. Yaki, don't cry. It was only 3 points. Yeah, second place is already very impressive. It's all that Chinyan's fault. She never says a word in normal times, but she really knows how to push ahead in exams. I stuffed my report card into my backpack without expression. First place, Chinyan. Second place, Suyaki. My boyfriend Joyu came back from the basketball court, drenched in sweat. He saw Suyaki crying and stopped in his tracks, a boy H and him a bottle of water, and nodded toward me. Your girlfriend, got first place again this time, and pushed Yaki out of it. Zhao, yes H. And as he twisted open the bottle cap, froze. He turned his head, his gaze passing through the crowd, and L landing on my face. There was no congratulations in that look, only a cold interrogation. He strode over and stopped in front of my desk. Did you come first? Yes. I looked up at him. Why didn't you let her win? His voice was low, burning with anger. I looked at him and found the question absurd. Why should I let her pass the exam? She stayed up for who knows how many nights for this final, and her health is practically falling apart. Can't you let her have it? This once. The reproach in his tone made it sound as if I had committed some heinous crime. Suyaki cried even more heartbreakingly over there. Her friend's voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough to carry over. Yaki's just too kind. She even lent her notes to Chen Yen before, and ended up raising an ungrateful wretch. The surrounding gazes stabbed over like needles. I clenched the straps of my school bag. Borrow notes. When had I ever borrowed her notes? It was clearly she who had begged me to help her highlight the key points and explain the difficult problems. Zhao Yes' face looked even worse. His chest rose and fell as he stared at me as if looking at a cold-blooded monster. Chunyan, go apologize to her. I did nothing wrong. You're not wrong. You made her cry, and that's not wrong. He snatched up a basketball from the table beside him. I'll ask you one last time. Are you going or not? The classroom was very quiet. Everyone is looking at us. Even the teacher on the platform stopped what they were doing and looked over with a frown. Suyaki lifted her head, her eyes blurred with tears. Oh, don't. It has nothing to do with her. I just didn't do well on the exam myself. Her words were like a ladle of oil poured onto the fire in Zhao Ye's heart. The fury in his eyes erupted completely. Who told you to snatch her first place? A furious roar. The basketball slipped from his H and, carrying the sound of the wind as it flew toward my face, instinctively wanted to dodge. But it was too close. Bang! A dull thud. My head was slammed backward by a tremendous force, crashing hard against the wall behind me. The world instantly hummed. A warm stream gushed from my nose. I covered my face, blood seeping through the gaps between my fingers and dripping onto my white school uniform, blooming into red flowers one by one. I couldn't hear anything in my ears, only a sharp buzzing. My vision was blurry, and the lights on the ceiling were swaying. Zhao Ye's face, Suyaki's face, the faces of my classmates, all twisted into strange shapes. At that moment, in my mind, a cold, mechanical voice sounded. Ding. Detected that the host has suffered an extremely unfair dual blow, both physical and mental. Tolerance threshold exceeded 100%. Absolute rationality. System officially activated. Reward issued. Emotion stripping. Thinking speed increased by 500%. Crisis management ability max. Newbie mission. H. Handle the current crisis. In an instant, the ringing in his ears vanished. The dizziness before his eyes also faded. The world became clear again. The excruciating pain of a fractured nasal bridge. The dull ache from the back of my head striking the wall. All of it turned into a string of analyzable data, no longer affecting my thinking. I slowly lowered my H and I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. Laughed. I met Joy's face, twisted with anger. Thank you for that shot. He froze. The whole class was stunned. Suyaki's crying also, caught in her throat before they could react. I moved, left H and smack. A crisp slap L and hard on Suyaki's face. She was stunned on the spot, and 5 finger marks quickly surfaced on her fair cheek. Right H and smack. A louder slap L, and on Zhao Ye's face. His head was knocked to the side, and his face wore the same expression of disbelief as mine. The entire classroom fell into dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. I withdrew my H and looked at the two of them, completely stunned. Now we're even. My voice was very calm, as if the one who had just experienced violence and the one who had carried it out were not me at all. As if this were merely the opening act of a farce that had nothing to do with me. The silence lasted for about 10 seconds. The homeroom teacher on the podium was the first to react. His surname was Wang, and he was a man in his 50s. Teacher Wang slapped the desk, his finger trembling as he pointed at me. Chen Yin, what are you doing? You're completely out of control. Zhu also came back to his senses. He touched his burning face, his eyes instantly turning bloodshot. You dare to hit me, he roared like an enraged beast, raising his H. And as he was about to lunge at me, I didn't move. I simply lifted my eyes and looked calmly at the little red light in the corner of the wall behind him. There are security cameras in the classroom. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough. Zhao Yes raised H and froze in midair. My words pulled him back to his senses. If he hit someone, especially under surveillance, a disciplinary notice would be unavoidable. Suyaki covered her face and finally burst into tears, this time with genuine grievance and fear in her sobs. Teacher, she hit me. A few girls hurriedly held her up and glared at me angrily. Chen Yen, are you crazy? Yaki was so kind as to help you, and you hit her. Apologized to Yaki, and brother you right away. Ignored those noisy voices. My brain, boosted by the absolute rationality system, was spinning at high speed. Crisis assessment. Current situation. The enemy outnumbers us. Core conflict. Zhao Yes violent behavior. And my act of retaliation. Key evidence. No. 1. Zhou smashing my basketball. No. 2. My act of slapping them. Best strategy. Avoid verbal entanglement. Leave the scene immediately. Preserve the evidence. And follow the official process. I bent down, picked up the backpack that had fallen to the ground, and slung it over my shoulder. Apologize. I looked at Shoyu, my eyes showing no anger, only the kind of scrutiny one would reserve for an object. You hit me with a basketball, causing what may be a fractured nose bridge and a mild concussion. I slapped you once by the principle of equivalent harm. You still owe me a lot. I looked at Suyaki again. As for you, you spread rumors that I borrowed your notes and defamed me, damaging my reputation. This slap is the price of SL Ander. My words were clear and logically structured like I was reading out a legal document. Sujaki Sabing came to a sudden halt, and her eyes darted away. I didn't. I just what? I stepped closer, just took the key points I marked for you, and claimed they were notes you lent me. Just took the problems I explained to you and treated them as a favor you did for me. Suyaki, do you want to pull up our chat records from 2 months ago? Suyaki's face instantly turned pale. Zhao stepped in front of her and roared at me. Shut up. You're not allowed to talk about Yaki like that. Feeling guilty, I looked at him. Are you stupid? Or do you simply not care about the truth? You trembled with anger, but because of my calmness and the presence of the surveillance cameras, he didn't dare to make another move. Teacher Wang stormed down from the podium in a fury. Chen Yan, come to my office with me. And you, Zhao Yu, Suyaki, come with me. 2. Instruction analysis. Entering the office will trigger a second round of verbal conflict. The other side has a homeroom teacher as authoritative support. Suyaki's playing the perfect victim, and Zhao Yu is acting as her protector. We are at a disadvantage. Plan revised. Refuse to enter an enclosed space and make the incident public. I didn't move. Mr. Wang, I need to go to the hospital for an injury examination now. I pointed to my nose, which was still bleeding according to school regulations. If a student suffers a personal injury during school hours, they should seek medical attention immediately and keep all medical records. As the homeroom teacher, you should know this better than I do. Mr. Wang was left speechless by my words, looking at my face covered in blood. He couldn't find any reason to refute me for the moment. What kind of attitude is that? I'm just stating the facts. I took out my phone. If you don't agree, I'll call the director of academic affairs right now and have him handle it. How dare you? Go ahead and see if I dare. In front of him, I started looking for the dean's phone number in my contacts. The whole class stared in shock. Was this really the Chen Yan who was usually quiet and introverted and never caused any trouble? It seemed like she had become a different person. Calm, sharp, with an oppressive presence that made people afraid to look straight at him. Teacher Wang's face turned blue and then white. He knew that if the matter was brought to the academic affairs office, he would never be able to shake off the label of poor management. Zhao Yu also grew anxious, although his family had some money. What they feared most was leaving a blemish on his record at school. Chunyan, do you really have to make this a big deal? Make it a big deal? I put away my phone and found it funny. The moment you hit me in the face with that basketball, you'd already made it a big deal. Zhao Yu, from that moment on, our relationship was no longer something that could be settled privately. I no longer looked at them. I walked to the door and glanced back. Sue was furious and unwilling to accept it. Suyaki felt aggrieved and frightened. Teacher Wang felt frustrated and helpless, and the whole class, those complex, probing, and gloating looks, data record, everyone's expressions and reactions have been archived. Emotional analysis, anger 50%, fear 30%, confusion 20%. All of these will become part of my plan. I pulled open the door and stepped out. In the classroom behind her, there was deathly silence and then a sudden uproar. Oh my God, she really left. Zhao Yu, are you okay? Teacher, what should we do? I didn't look back. The wind in the hallway brushed against my face. A little cold. The blood in my nose was still slowly flowing. But in my heart, everything was perfectly clear. Saoju Sujaki, this was only the beginning. Everything you have inflicted on me, I will make you repay tenfold, hundredfold, in the most rational way. I didn't go straight to the campus hospital. The school clinic's diagnosis is easily interfered with by forces within the school. I walked out of the campus gate and took a taxi to the city's largest Class A tertiary hospital. I registered, got an X-ray, had the wound debried, and picked up the diagnosis report. And led the whole process in an orderly manner. Diagnosis: minor fracture of the nasal bridge, facial soft tissue contusion, mild concussion, medical advice, rest for 1 week, avoid strenuous exercise, and return for regular follow-up visits. I collected all the receipts, invoices, and diagnostic certificates, photographed them with my phone, and uploaded them to the cloud as a backup. After doing all this, I sat on the hospital's cold bench and began to think about the next step. My phone kept vibrating. It was a call from Zhao Yu, and from my mom as well. I hung up EXO yes call first, and answer my mom's. Nian Yen teacher Wang called, and said, "You got into a fight at school, and even injured a classmate. How are you? Are you hurt?" My mom sounded very anxious. She is a typical traditional woman, kind, timid, and most afraid of causing trouble. "Mom, I'm fine. How could it be nothing? The teacher said you beat up XU and a girl from his class. Yin, what exactly happened to you? Tell Mom the truth quickly." "He hit first," I stated calmly. "You hit my face with a basketball. I'm in the hospital now, and the doctor said the bridge of my nose is fractured." There was silence on the other end of the line. After a long while, my mom's voice thick with tears came through. "A fracture? Is it serious? Then why did you have to hit back? He's your boyfriend. Why couldn't you just let him have his way a little? Now look what happened. You're injured, and they're hurt, too. What are we supposed to do now?" Analysis of relatives' reactions. Inclined to keep the peace. Unable to provide effective support. My heart sank a little, but I wasn't surprised. This is my family. "Mom, don't get involved in this. I'll handle it myself." How can I not care? The school asked a parent to come over. Your dad is away on a business trip, so I have to go. Yin, listen to Mom. Go there and properly apologize to the teacher and your classmates, and let's just put this matter behind us. Okay, apologize. I repeated the 2 words. Of course, you're a girl, and hitting people is always wrong. Our family is ordinary, and we can't afford to offend Zhao Yes' family. Be good. Okay. I took a deep breath, then slowly let it out. "Mom, if you go to the school, there's only one thing you can do." "What is it?" "Take my injury report to the academic affairs office, to the principal's office, and that the school expel, and make him compensate me for all my medical expenses and emotional distress." "You're crazy," my mother screamed. "I'm not crazy." My voice was as cold as ice. "If you can't do it, or if you want to go and make me apologize, then don't go. Going there will only make things worse." With that, I hung up the phone directly. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. Emotional connection assessment. Family support is negative. Action plan adjustment. Initiate plan B and introduce external support. I opened my eyes and searched through my contacts. You called again, and I casually blocked the number. Then I found a phone number. The note said, "Aunt Zhang." She was a lawyer at a fairly well-known local law firm, and also a distant relative of my dad. I wasn't very familiar with her. I had only met her a few times during the New Year. My impression of her is that she is shrewd, competent, and puts profit first in everything right now. This is exactly the kind of person I need. The call connected. "Hello, who is this?" Aunt Zhang's voice carried the polite courtesy of someone used to handling business. "Aunt Zhang, I am Chen Yan. My uncle is Qin Janjun." "Oh, Ningyan. I remember now. What's the matter?" "I'd like to ask you to help me with a lawsuit." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, followed by a soft chuckle. "What kind of lawsuit is a young girl getting into personal injury?" I briefly and concisely recounted what had happened, leaving out the existence of the system. "School bullying." Aunt Zhang's tone immediately turned professional. "Do you have evidence?" "Yes. Classroom surveillance. Testimony from the whole class, plus a forensic injury report from a top-tier hospital, and all the medical records." What about the other family's background? His name is Zhao Yu. His father runs a company. I'm not sure about the exact scale, but he should have some influence locally. Interesting. Aunt Zhang's interest was piqued. Lawyers' fees aren't cheap. Can you, as a student, afford them? I can't afford them, I admitted, but I can sign a contingency fee agreement with you. All the compensation you help me secure will split by percentage. I want 50%, and you take 50%. There was silence on the other end of the line under a contingency fee arrangement. A lawyer taking 50% is far above the market rate. High risk also means high return. How much compensation do you want? Medical expenses, lost wages, nutrition fees, and compensation for emotional distress. My preliminary estimate is that altogether it's at least 200,000 yuan. 200 yuan. Aunt Zhang smiled. You're asking for quite a lot. Young lady, in campus disputes, a few tens of thousands, and at most is usually already the ceiling. That's the usual case. My voice remained completely steady. But this time is different. How is it different? Because I'll make it different. I paused and said each word clearly. Aunt Zhang, I don't just want money. I want him Zhao Yu expelled from school. I want a stain left in his record that he can never wash away for the rest of his life. I also want that girl named Su Yaki to apologize to me publicly and admit that she SL-endeared me. We will win this case, and we'll win it beautifully. Will you take it? There was certainty in my words that powerful confidence traveled through the signal to the other end. And Chong was silent for a long time, so long that I thought she was going to hang up. Then she spoke. Okay, I'll take it. Her voice carried excitement. Send me your information. See you at the law firm in half an hour. After hanging up, I stood up and walked toward the sunlight at the hospital entrance. Zhao Yu, Suyaki, Teacher Wang, and my weak mother. Do you think this is just a simple campus conflict? No. From the moment the basketball hit my face, this became a war. A war I will absolutely not lose. My plan has only just begun. The first step, the legal weapon, is already in place. Aunt Zhang's law firm is in the most upscale office building in the city center. Floor-to-ceiling windows, leather sofas, and the air is filled with the mixed scent of coffee and paper. She looked through all the materials I had brought, and her eyes grew brighter and brighter. Chunyan, you really are a genius. She pointed at the various expressions of the classmates in the classroom after the incident, which I had captured with my phone. These are all excellent supporting evidence and can be used to corroborate the mental state of everyone present at the time. You were born to do this. I didn't speak. This isn't talent. It's the result of that absolute rationality system's calculations analysis. The best way to win sympathy is to prove that the other party feels no remorse while our side is isolated. And without support, we quickly finalized all the details and signed the contingency fee agreement. Zhang began drafting a lawyer's letter, preparing to send it separately to Zhao Ye's family, Su Yaki's family, and the school. Just then, an unfamiliar number called in. I answered and turned on speakerphone. Chunyan. It was Zhao Ye's voice, suppressing his anger. Where are you? Get back here right now. My parents have already arrived at the school. How long do you still plan to hide? Aunt Zhang gestured to me, signaling me to continue. I'm not at school. I don't care where you are right now. Go tell Mr. Wang that you started it first, and that you were in the wrong. Then apologize to Yaki. I can consider asking my dad to compensate you a little for your medical expenses. His tone was matter of fact, as if he were condescendingly doing me a favor. Apologize? I asked. What else? What do you want? Don't push your luck and turn down a face-saving offer. Do you really have to make this ugly for everyone? Zhao Yu interrupted him, my voice calm and steady. I'm calling to inform you of one thing. He froze for a moment. What is it? From now on, we're broken up." There was a deathly silence on the other end of the phone. After a while, he seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world. "Break up? You're bringing up a breakup with me. Chun-Yen, get this straight. I'm the one dumping you. A venomous woman like you. Who would ever want you? Okay, you're dumping me. Fine." I didn't care at all about this kind of verbal spat. "The reason for the breakup is that you assaulted me without cause, resulting in personal injury, from both a legal and moral standpoint. Our relationship has come to an end. For all subsequent communications, please contact my attorney, Ms. Jiang Hai." I looked at Aunt Jiang, and she smiled at me and nodded. Lawyer X, yes, voice rose full of disbelief. "You hired a lawyer for this petty crap. Are you crazy? This isn't petty crap. It's a criminal case." I corrected him. "According to Article 234 of the criminal law, anyone who intentionally injures another person's body shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years. Criminal detention or public surveillance. Your actions have already met the threshold for filing a case." On the other end of the phone, rough, heavy breathing came through. I could imagine the furious, disbelieving expression on his face at that moment. Emotion analysis. The other party has fallen into rage, and confusion, and information. Asymmetry advantage has been established. Zhao Yu, the moment the basketball hit my face. "You should have known this day would come. My lawyer's letter will be delivered to your father's company tomorrow. Good luck." After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. The whole world fell silent. Aunt Jiang looked at me, her eyes full of admiration. "Well done. We recorded this call. He personally admitted that he told you to get back here, and he even suggested settling it privately with a little medical expense, all of which is evidence of his guilty conscience." She stood up and patted me on the shoulder. "Don't worry. Leave the rest to me." By the time I walked out of the law firm, it was already dark. The call from the director of the school's academic affairs office came, through his tone carrying official authority. "Is this Chun-Yen? I'm Director Ally from the Academic Affairs Office regarding this afternoon's conflict between you and classmates, Shoyu and Suyaki. The school takes this very seriously. Please come to the school conference room tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with your parent. We'll resolve the matter together with X parents." My parents aren't free. I was telling the truth. My mom wouldn't come, and my dad was out of town. Then do it yourself. This is a notice from the school, and it must be obeyed. Director Lee's tone turned stern. "Okay, Director." I agreed without hesitation. "I'll be there on time at 900 tomorrow morning. However, I won't be alone. My attorney, Ms. Jiang Hai, will attend with me." On the other end of the line, Director Lee's breathing suddenly caught. I could feel his headache. Things had already started moving in a direction he could no longer control. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I arrived at school conference room number 3 on time with Aunt Jiang. A long conference table with several groups of people seated, clearly divided. On one side were the principal, Director Lee, and homeroom, teacher M.S. Wong representing the school, each wearing a stern expression. On the other side were Zhao Yu and his parents, his father, Zhao Jianhai, a man in his 50s wearing gold-rimmed glasses, had in his eyes the shrewdness and arrogance of a businessman. His mother, meanwhile, was dressed like a society lady, holding A.H. handkerchief and dabbing at non-existent tears from time to time. She looked at her son with heartache. Zhao Yu sat between them, faint traces of finger marks still left on his face, glaring at me with venom in his eyes. Suyaki and her mother sat in the corner, their posture delicate and frail, like 2 little white flowers swaying in the wind. As soon as I appeared, all eyes focused on me. I had no makeup on, the bruise on my temple, and the medical tape on the bridge of my nose were clearly visible. ST ending in stark contrast to my calm expression. Class Mate Chen Yen. And this is the principal, pushed up his glasses, and looked at Aunt Jang beside me. Aunt Jang took a business card out of her briefcase and Chen it over. Hello, Principal Gao. I am Chen Yan's attorney, Zhang Gui. From now on, I will be fully responsible for communicating with the school and the party at fault regarding the physical injury Chen Yan suffered on campus. Her words were like a stone thrown into a calm lake. Zhao Jinhai's brows immediately furrowed. Director Li and Teacher Wang looked even more grim. They clearly hadn't expected that I, an ordinary student from an average family, would actually bring in a lawyer. A lawyer? Zhao Jinhai sneered, leaning back against the chair. Little girl, are you trying to extort money? Aunt Jang smiled, sat down across from me, and opened her laptop. Mr. Zhao, please watch your words. My client, Ms. Qin Yan, was subjected to your son, Zhao Yes violent actions, which caused a fractured nasal bridge and a mild concussion. We are not extorting money. We are protecting legitimate rights and interests. Or are you saying that, in your view, beating someone into the hospital is a trivial matter that requires no responsibility? Zhao Jinhai was left speechless, his face flushing red. Mother Hao, who was ST ending next to him, immediately screamed, "You're talking nonsense. How could a Rao hit anyone? It was clearly she who seduced O first. She was jealous of Yaki again. So she deliberately stirred up trouble. She even slapped Rao in the face. Look, his face is still swollen." Siaki's mother also chimed in. Yes, was also hit by her. The child was frightened and didn't sleep well all night last night. Siaki lowered her head at just the right moment, her shoulders trembling slightly as she began to sob softly. In an instant, the meeting room was filled with accusations against me. The principal cleared his throat and began to smooth things over. All right, say a little less. We invited everyone here today to solve the problem, not to start an argument. Zhao Yu was wrong to make the first move, but Qin Yan also hit back. I think this is just a small friction between young people, an impulsive act in the heat of the moment. He looked at Zhao Jianhai. Chairman Zhao, what do you think? How about having Zhao Yu apologize to Qin Yan, our school, and your side will share the medical expenses? Then Qin Yan, you should also apologize to classmate Siaki. After all, hitting someone is wrong. Let's just let this matter end here, and not let it affect the children's studies. Okay, this whole line of talk perfectly embodied what it means to smooth things over. Zhou Jianhai was very satisfied with this plan. He nodded. I think that works. But let's skip the apology. My AU is precious and has never apologized to anyone. I'll pay the money. 100,000 yuan. Is that enough? He looked at me as if dismissing a beggar. Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to nod. In their eyes, a poor student faced with 100,000 yuan, and the principal's pressure had no choice but to accept. I finally spoke up. Not enough. My voice was very soft, yet it instantly silenced the entire conference room. Zhou Jinhai's smile froze on his face. I looked up, my gaze sweeping over everyone present. My demands were conveyed to you yesterday through my lawyer. First, expel Zhao Yu and record this campus violence incident in his file. Second, Su Yaki must publicly read an apology letter in front of all the school's teachers and students admitting to her defamation of my reputation. Third, compensation. This includes medical expenses, nutritional expenses, follow-up treatment costs, and emotional distress damages for a total of 300,000 yuan. Any one of the above three terms is indispensable. Otherwise, we'll see each other in court. As soon as I finished speaking, the whole room was stunned. You're crazy. X, you was the first to jump to his feet. 300,000. And you want to fire me too. Dream on. Gene, his expression darkened completely. He slammed his H on the table and pointed at me. You little brat. I've been giving you face, haven't I? Don't think hiring a lawyer means you can scare me. I'm telling you, I Zhao Jian, I have never been afraid of anyone in Changnan. You want to report my son? I'll make sure you can't even keep going to school. Believe it or not. A blatant threat. The principal and director Li both changed expression, wanting to intervene but not daring to. Aunt Zhang, however, smiled. She pressed the stop button on her phone's recording, then played back what Zhou Jian Hai had just said. I can make it so you can't even go to school. Believe it or not. The clear recording echoed through the conference room. Zhou Jian, his expression changed from anger to stunned disbelief, then to panic. Mr. Shou, your remarks just now have already constituted a threat, an intimidation. This recording will become new evidence for us in court. Aunt Zhang put away her phone and stood up. It seems today's mediation can't continue. Principal Gao, Director Li, my client has been explicitly threatened today for the sake of her personal safety. We will leave now for any further communication. Please contact my office directly. After saying that, she took me with her and walked toward the door under the stunned gazes of the crowd. When we reached the door, I stopped and looked back. Zhao Jianhai was trembling all over with anger. Zhou Yes' eyes were filled with unwillingness on Su Yaki's face. There was not only fragility, but also panic. Knew they wouldn't let this go. Their retaliation would come soon, and that was precisely part of my plan. Just as I expected, that afternoon, the school's Tiba and a well-known local forum were flooded with posts. The headlines were each more sensational than the last. Shocking. A top female student at No. 1 high school turns on her boyfriend for money, violently assaulting him, and an innocent female classmate. Poverty is not a sin, but greed is uncovering the schemes and violence behind the top rank. I'll say something fair about those things in Class 3. 1. The content of the posts is more or less the same, all portraying me as a sinister, jealous, vicious woman who would stop at nothing for money. They say that because Su Yaki comes from a well-off family and is popular, I targeted her everywhere. They say that because Zhao Yu said a word for Su Yaki, I flew into a jealous rage and struck first. The post also came with pictures. One was a photo of Su Yaki covering her face, eyes brimming with tears, her cheeks swollen and red, looking pitifully helpless. Another was a photo of Zhao Yu with finger marks on his face, frowning in restraint, making him look very innocent. As for my injuries, they were brushed off as merely a minor superficial wound. The posters were all anonymous IDs, but their tone made them sound like classmates, and their stories seemed detailed and convincing. In an instant, public opinion was completely detonated. Students and netizens, unaware of the truth, began to heap criticism on me. Oh my God, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Why would someone with such good grades do something like this? For 300,000, you don't even want your face anymore. You must be crazy for money. Poor school beauty and school hunk. Running into someone like this is just terrible luck. People like this should be expelled. My phone was blown up with all kinds of insulting texts and calls flooding in. My mom also called, crying as she begged me, Yen, forget it. We can't beat them. Listen to Mom and go apologize. We don't want the money anymore. Can you just go back to school and study properly? Public opinion attack initiated. Intensity moderate. Impact scope within the school and local online networks. Analysis. The enemy is attempting to use moral coercion and public pressure to force our side to up. And in its countermeasure launched the evidence chain counterattack plan. I hung up on my mom and put my phone on silent. Then I sent an encrypted file to Aunt Chong. Aunt Chong, you can begin now. Got it. A Chong replied instantly. Just wait and watch the show. Half an hour later, the official Weibo account of Zhang Hui Law Firm published a long article. The title was Public Disclosure of the Facts and Evidence in the Case Involving MS Chin Yen, whom our firm represents on intentional injury and defamation of reputation. The article carried no emotion, merely listing the evidence calmly. First piece of evidence: an official diagnosis report issued by a municipal top-tier hospital bearing its official seal. It clearly states in black and white a minor fracture of the nasal bridge, multiple soft tissue contusions on the face, and a mild concussion. Attached below are high-definition photos I took at the hospital after the injury, showing my face covered in blood and my swollen nose. The photo of Biswayaki's red cheeks was more than 100 times more striking. The second piece of evidence: a surveillance video that had been technically processed to remove background noise. The video was short, only 15 seconds long, but it clearly recorded Su Yaki crying and Zoyu walking up to me to question me. Then, without any warning, he grabbed the basketball and smashed it into my face with all his might. Throughout the entire process, I made no provocative remarks and no unnecessary movements. The third piece of evidence: screenshots of 3 months of WeChat chat records between Suyaki and me. From the first time she cautiously asked me about a problem to later taking it for granted that I would help her highlight the key points and make a study plan. Every time my answers were patient and detailed. This directly shattered the lies that I was jealous of her, and I stole her notes. Item 4 of the evidence: and audio recording. It was the recording from yesterday in the conference room when Zhao Jianhai threatened me, saying, "I'll make sure you can't even go to school." These 4 pieces of evidence were like 4 heavy bombs dropped into what had originally been an overwhelmingly one-sided public opinion field. After the long post was published, it was reposted by major local news and information bloggers in less than 10 minutes. The tide turned in an instant. Holy crap, what a reversal. The basketball hit him right in the face. Is he trying to kill someone? Oh my god, these chat logs. Su Yaki's way too much of a saintly hypocrite, treating someone like a free tutor and then stabbing them in the back. That dad is even worse. He hits someone and is still this arrogant, directly threatening to expel them. What is this? The mafia, those who used to criticize Cheney. Does your face hurt? This is the real victim of school bullying. Hashtag Jong School bullying. Hashtag this topic must trend. The perpetrators must be severely punished. The flames of public opinion burning 10 times more fiercely than before were directed at Zhao Yu and Suyaki, the name and address of Zhao Jinhai's company, as well as the workplaces of Su Yaki's parents, were all dug up by angry netizens. The school's official phone lines and the City Education Bureau's hotline were brought to a st and still. I looked at the comments constantly refreshing on the computer screen, my expression unchanged. Jianhai, don't you like using money and power to solve problems? Suyaki, don't you like playing the victim to win sympathy? Zhao Yu, don't you think violence can override everything? Now, I'm giving you back the very thing you're best at. I've moved the battlefield from the conference room to right before everyone's eyes in this trial called justice. You are the ones who are guilty. Ding. In my mind, the system's voice sounded again. Phase mission public opinion, reversal completed. Evaluation. Perfect. Reward. Unlock the logic trap skill. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but the caller ID showed the principal's office. I answered. On the other end of the line was Principal Gao's voice, almost pleading. Student Chin Yen, are you free right now? Can we talk again? Okay, we can agree to all of your terms. We can agree to them all. I did not immediately agree to the principal's request. Principal, this is not the time to talk. My voice passed through the electricity, as calm as a block of ice. The online public opinion was not guided by me. It was Zhao Yes family's actions that provoked public outrage. It takes the one who tied the bell to untie it. You should go to them. I did. How could I not have looked for them? The principal's voice sounded on the verge of tears. Xiao Jinhai's phone is practically blown up, and a crowd of reporters is blocking the company in trance. He's begging me now, asking me to find you, and talk about a settlement. Chen Yen, I'm begging you as your teacher. Please give him a chance. Okay, if this keeps going, our school's century-old reputation will be ruined. What does that have to do with me? Reputation is built on facts and fairness. I paused for a moment and activated the newly unlocked logical trap skill. Principal, as the head of the school, your attitude at yesterday's mediation meeting was to punish both sides equally and smooth things over. This in itself is indulgence toward the perpetrator and a second injury to the victim. Do you think your handling of the matter yesterday protected the school's reputation? There was silence on the other end of the line. I can imagine how embarrassed he must be at this moment. So, this is not a matter of whether I am giving an opportunity or not. It's a question of whether the school, the Zhao family, and the Su family are willing to give fairness a chance. I set the tone for this conversation. The initiative must be firmly in my hands. Here's what we'll do. Principal, tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, in yesterday's conference room. I hope to see a solution that satisfies me. If I do not, my lawyer will file a lawsuit directly with the court, and I will also use my real name to report to the education authorities that no one middle school engaged in an action, and cover-ups in handling the campus violence incident. With that, I hung up the phone. I have no sense of joy at victory because I knew this was only winning back one round. The real battle is tomorrow. Aunt Jiang called soon after. Nicely done. What you just said was flawless. You made your tough stance clear while also giving the other side a way to back down. Their only choice now is to surrender completely. Will they be willing to? I asked. No. Aunt Jiang smiled. Especially people like Shou Jianhai, who values saving face above all else. He'll come tomorrow, but he'll definitely try to bargain. And he may even resort to some and tactics. For example, they may try to play the sympathy card or try to dig up your faults. I have no faults. I know. Aunt Xiang's tone turned serious, but they'll create one. Chen Yan, remember, tomorrow at the venue, no matter what they say or do, don't get angry, and don't let your emotions get the better of you. The calmer you are, the more impatient they become, and the more likely they are to make mistakes. Leave everything to me. All you need to do is make your final decision at the most critical moment. I understood. And, after hanging up the phone, I looked out at the night outside the window. The city was brightly lit like a giant net. I Zhao, you, Siaki, each, and every one of us are all caught in this web. Some want to break free, while others want to pull everyone else in. And I am going to be the one who weaves the web. The next day, I walked into conference room. No, 3 again. The atmosphere was completely different from yesterday. The arrogance on Zhao Jianhai's face was gone, replaced by deep exhaustion and resentment. The dark circles under his eyes were heavy, clearly from not sleeping all night. Zhao's mother was no longer crying or making a fuss. She just sat there silently, her eyes empty. Zhao Yu hung his head like a defeated rooster. Suyaki and her mother shrank even further into the corner, wishing they could turn themselves into invisible people. As soon as the principal and director Li saw me, they immediately forced out warm smiles, hastily offering tea and giving up their seats. Chun Yen, you're here. Come on, have a seat. I nodded, and sat down with Aunt Jang in the main seats. This time we were the judges. All right, everyone. And Chom opened her briefcase and got straight to the point. Time is precious. So, let's get right to the point regarding the 3 requests we have put forward. Mr. X, Ms. Su, and the school authorities. What is your response? Zhou Jianhai took a deep breath as if suppressing a massive surge of anger. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. Chunyan, leave some room for others so you can meet again in the future. I admit that my son was wrong to have struck first. 300 I'll pay it. And Zhao Yu will apologize, but expelling him from school. Isn't that going too far? He's still just a child. Are you trying to ruin his whole life? He started appealing to emotions. I said nothing, and looked at Aunt Jang. Aunt Jang pushed up her glasses. Mr. Shou, before the law, there's no such thing as a child once someone is over 16 years old. They must bear full responsibility for their actions. Zhao Yes behavior has already caused serious physical and psychological trauma to my client. Expulsion is the most basic punishment. You, Zhao Jianhai, slammed the table, but quickly sat back down weakly at this moment. Su Yaki's mother, who had remained silent all along, suddenly spoke. Chunyan Yaki. She didn't mean it either. She's just a simple, kind-hearted child, praised by everyone since she was little. She's never really experienced any setbacks. She didn't do well on this exam, and in a moment of confusion, she said those things. Can't you forgive her just once? Her voice was tinged with tears, sounding deeply sincere. If it had been the old me, I might have softened, but now my mind held only cold. Hard data analysis. Logic trap activated. Detected that the other party is using a variant of the victim-blaming fallacy. The perpetrator innocence. Fallacy. Counterattack strategy reveal the nature of their behavior, rather than getting entangled in motives. I finally lifted my eyes and looked directly at Su Yaki for the first time. Aunt Su, you say she's innocent. Would an innocent person take credit for the tutoring I helped her with and turn it into her favor? To me, a simple person would. When Zhao Yu is violent toward me, say, you don't. This has nothing to do with her, so as to completely ignite his rage. A simple person would, after I was beaten, immediately cooperate with the Zhao family and take that kind of suggestive photo, then post it online to smear me with every question I asked. Suyaki's face turned a shade paler. Her mother was speechless. 2. She isn't naive. She's a refined egoist. She isn't thoughtless either. Every step she takes is calculated. She enjoys my help while envying my achievements. She uses Zhao Yes impulsiveness to hurt me, then plays the innocent white lotus afterward. My voice was not loud, yet it was like a scalpel, precisely slicing open Su Yaki's hypocritical shell. Su Yaki suddenly raised her head, her eyes full of resentment. I didn't. You're talking nonsense. Chunyan, you're just jealous of me. You're jealous that everyone likes me. Jealous that Joy treats me well. At last, she tore off her disguise. Really? I smiled. I took out my phone and opened an audio recording. This was accidentally recorded half a month ago when I went to ask the physics teacher about a difficult problem in the recording. It was the conversation between Su Yaki and her friend. That Chen Yen is such a bookworm. I just sweet-talked her a little, and she gave me all the key points. Yaki, you're amazing. Zhao Yu is completely head over heels for you. Of course, someone like Xu is simple-minded and well-built. He's the easiest to control. Once I finish the exam and get the guaranteed admission spot, I'll dump him. His family may be rich, but I can't st and the nouveau re-act his dad puts on. The recording playback has ended. The conference room fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's gaze was fixed on Su Yaki's bloodless face. Zhao Yu suddenly turned his head and looked at her in disbelief. Yaki, you. Zhao Jean, his expression darkened even further. Black as the bottom of a pot. His family background, the thing he had always been most proud of, had actually been dismissed by a little girl his son held dear in the palm of his H, and as nouveau riz. This was even more humiliating than being slapped in the face. Suyaki completely broke down. No, it's not like that. Oh, listen to my explanation. That's enough, Jian Hai roared, cutting her off. He stood up and looked down at Suyaki and her daughter, his eyes icy. The apology letter. Prepare it yourselves. Our whole family's affairs have nothing to do with you anymore. After speaking, he turned to me, his expression complicated. Classmate Chen Yan. We lost. He seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. Your terms. We agree to all of them. The 300,000 will be transferred to your lawyer's account this afternoon. Expulsion from school. I'll go speak to the principal myself. He looked at his own son, and for the first time, there was disappointment in his eyes. Zhao Yu, pack your things and get out of here. Go home. Everything has settled. Zhao Yu was expelled. On Monday's flag-raising ceremony, Su Yaki read out a 30,000 word apology letter in front of the entire school. Teachers and students alike. Her voice trembled, and she broke down in tears. But in the eyes of the audience below, there was no longer any sympathy, only contempt and mockery. After deducting the lawyer's fees from the 300,000 yuan compensation, 150,000 yuan remained and was deposited into my card. My mom stared at that long string of numbers, so excited she didn't know what to do with herself. Yen, this much money. Mom, this is what they owe me. I and her the card. Use this money to renovate the old house at home. As for the rest, do whatever you want with it. My mom cried, holding me, unable to say a word. I knew that from this moment on, my position in this family had completely changed. I was no longer the daughter who had to be obedient and endure everything. I became the backbone of this family. School life returned to normal, but it was a little different. No one dared to point fingers behind my back anymore. The way my classmates looked at me changed from pity to awe. I was still in first place, and by AL and slide, leaving the second place student far behind. As expected, I became the city's top scorer in the college entrance exam. When filling out my college applications, I chose the capital's best university, the law school. After a Jiang found out, she specially treated me to a meal. I knew it. You were born for this. Come, and turn at my firm later, and I'll personally mentor you. Smiling, I raised my glass. Then I'll be counting on Lawyer Jiang to guide me from now on before university started. I used the money I had left to sign up for a martial arts club. I don't want to experience again the feeling of being powerless in the face of violence. Both body and mind must be strong. That day, I was practicing boxing at the club when an unexpected person found me. It was Zhao Yu. He had lost a lot of weight and had also gotten darker. Gone was his former arrogance. His eyes held a look of dejection after he was expelled. His father sent him to a second-rate university abroad to get a diploma. I'm leaving next week. He stood beside the punching bag. His voice, before I go, I wanted to say I'm sorry. I stopped and took off my boxing gloves. I accept your apology. He seemed not to have expected me to be so straightforward, and froze for a moment. You don't hate me. Hate? I shook my head. Ho you, you're no longer important to me. I don't have the time or the energy to hate someone who has nothing to do with me. My calmness seemed to make him feel worse than any insult could. A bitter look appeared on his face. I used to be such a jerk. Yes, I did not deny it. He was silent for a long time, then took a small box out of his pocket. I was originally going to give this to you on your birthday. I opened it, and inside was a very beautiful necklace. It was the same style I had looked at many times from outside the shop window. No need. and the box back to him, where even now he did not insist further, silently taking the box back. Chunyan. He looked at me one last time, his expression complicated. You have really changed a lot. People always change. I put my gloves back on, turned around, and faced the punching bag. Bang! A straight punch. Crisp. And clean. So you watched my back for a long time. Then turned. And left. I didn't look back. Everything from the past, like this punching bag, was completely shattered by my punches, one after another. My life was just beginning. In my mind, that cold mechanical voice had not sounded for a long time. I even found myself missing it a little. Host, you no longer need me. As if it had heard my thoughts. It suddenly spoke. I was stunned. What do you mean? The absolute rationality system does not come from the outside. It originates from the self-suppressed deep within your heart. Every act of endurance, every concession is gathering strength for this self that shot from Zhao. You did not activate me. It shattered your shackles and released the real you. I am you. You are me. Congratulations. Chunyan, you have learned how to fight for yourself. The novice task has been completed, and the system is about to enter sleep mode. I wish you a bright future. The cold voice gradually faded away. I stood there for a very, very long time. So that's how it is. The only one who could save me from beginning to end was myself. I laughed, facing the club's bright mirror. She revealed a heartfelt, radiant smile. Goodbye, my past self. Hello, my future self. The story is over after hearing the first story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sister is a self-righteous hypocrite. The matchmaker arranged a blind date for her, and the other party was a murderer who had just been released from prison. I advised her to think carefully, as murderers tend to harbor stronger hatred toward others. Later, my sister married someone else and lived a happy, stable life. As a result, when the two met again, she sided with the murderer. If it weren't for my sister's interference, I would have married you. You wouldn't have ended up so down and out, and I wouldn't have regretted it so much. Filled with resentment, the murderer sneaked into my room at night and strangled me to death. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the day my sister took a liking to the murderer. The feeling of suffocation is still vivid in my memory. Yet, the glaring sunlight tells me that I have been reborn in my line of sight. My sister is telling my mother and friends about the outcome of her blind date upon hearing that the other person is a murderer. Everyone exclaims how absurd it is. How could the matchmaker be so unreliable, finding a murderer for a blind date? Yeah, what if he kills again in the future? My sister immediately retorted. He doesn't seem like that kind of person to me. He's good-looking and quite honest, taking the initiative to tell me he's killed someone. I think it was just his youthful impulsiveness back then. If the other person hadn't been so unreasonable, why would he have hit that person and not someone else? As she spoke, her eyes were filled with heartache. He has no father or mother, and he's all alone out there. I want to give him a home. Besides, the law gave him a second chance. So why can't I, Yunji? Don't you think that's right? I was instantly jolted awake in my previous life. She asked me the same question for my sister's own good. I seriously analyzed the psychology of a murderer with her. I explained that such murderers, especially those who attack without justifiable defense, harbor stronger hatred toward others, and advised her to think carefully. I also told her that if she really married someone with a criminal record, it could affect the next generation. At that time, my sister's face turned pale, and she remained silent. It was my mother who, upon hearing about it, strongly opposed this marriage. Later, my sister married an honest man and lived a happy and stable life. Her husband and worked diligently to support the family, but she was never satisfied, complaining that he wasn't handsome enough. and didn't know how to sweet talk until she encountered the down and out murderer again. She poured out all her bitterness. If it weren't for my sister's interference, the person I would have married would have been you. You wouldn't have ended up so destitute, and I wouldn't have been filled with such regret. At that time, the murderer had killed again and was on the run hearing my sister say this. He grew even more resentful, blaming all the misfortunes of these years on me. He sneaked into my room at night and strangled me to death. My sister had the password to my front door, and that night, she came to deliver something to me, only to encounter the murderer who was assaulting me. Instead of calling the police, she helped the murderer escape. She even claimed to the outside world that I had died from gas poisoning on the day I was cremated. My sister gently stroked her slightly swollen belly and said, "I'm sorry, little sister. He can't be caught. The child can't be without a father. If you hadn't provoked him, why would he have killed you?" My mother also wept quietly beside her, saying, "I looked it up online. Harboring a murderer is also a crime. If you were still alive, you definitely wouldn't want your sister to go to jail or her child to be implicated, right?" Still lost in thought, my sister nudged me again and said, "Yinny, I'm asking you a question." I gathered my thoughts and replied with a smile, "Sis, I'm just an ordinary middle school teacher with a simple social circle, and I'm younger than you. How would I know anything about marriage? But this is my sister's marriage. Who she marries should, of course, be decided by my sister and Mom." After hearing my words, my sister launched into another round of persuasion with my mom. She kept saying how pitiful and hard the other person's life was, and that a murderer without parents would be easier to marry into the family, and that the social connections and family background wouldn't be complicated. My mother has always favored my sister, and their saintly dispositions are cut from the same cloth. She agreed almost immediately after all the arrangements were made. Even the wedding date was set. Who would have thought that on the very day the wedding date was set, my mother called me again. "Yunji, you know our family situation. It's already not easy to support you through college, even though it's a son-in-law marriage. We can't skimp on what should be there. So, you have to cover the wedding expenses. Our family only has 2 daughters. My older sister, Su Yuneo, stays at home to marry a son-in-law and is raised like a son. In my mother's eyes, everything is considered for my sister. So, my mother said the same thing in my previous life. She even emotionally manipulated me, saying that if she ever had any health issues in the future, my sister would be the one to take care of her. Now that my sister is getting married, I should be the one to pay for it. Most importantly, if something were to happen to her in the future, my sister and I would be the only ones left in this world who are truly close. The wedding almost wiped out all of my savings. But now, I don't want to be emotionally manipulated by them anymore. So, I spoke up. "Mom, it really wasn't easy for you to support me through school, but my college tuition was all covered by loans, and I earned my living expenses by working part-time at a small restaurant and tutoring. You're my mother, and if you ever get sick or have health issues in the future, of course, I won't just ignore you, right? I really don't have any money. All the money I've earned over the years has gone toward paying off loans. Didn't my sister say? My future brother-in-law has no parents, so he definitely doesn't care about all that. If you don't believe me, ask my sister." Sure enough, as soon as my mom asked my sister holding the murderer loose Xiaowang's arm, shyly replied, "Xiaowang said that after we get married, our family will be his family. We don't need to worry about all those formalities." Although they said everything should be kept simple, my mom still made the wedding lively and bustling. As for me, I rented a place to live outside before they got married. In my previous life, my sister married someone else, and I often went home to visit my mother each time. I brought expensive nutritional supplements just wanting to fulfill my filial duties properly. In this life, I won't be foolish anymore. I'll save my own money well and focus solely on planning for myself. My mother noticed my distance and often called to ask me to come home. But each time I used the excuse of being busy with school and preparing lesson plans to brush her off. I didn't dare to be under the same roof as a murderer if I said the wrong thing. I wouldn't even know how I'd be killed. Until that day, my mom called me again before she could speak. I quickly said, "Mom, if there's something, just tell me directly. I'm writing lesson plans right now, and I have a public class tomorrow." My mom's voice was filled with anxiety. "Yunji, come back quickly and take a look. Your sister and your brother-in-law are arguing." Besides my mom's voice, there were also noises of quarreling and things being thrown on the other end of the phone. Hearing this, I smiled and comforted her. "Mom, isn't it normal for couples to argue? My sister loves her husband, and so much. They'll be fine by tomorrow." As soon as the words left my mouth, my sister's scream came through the phone. My mother dropped the phone, her voice almost breaking as she shouted, "Yuna!" I pretended to call out a few times, but there was no response on the other end. So, I hung up the phone directly and went back to reading. By the time my mom called back, it was already noon the next day. There was no other reason. It was simply because I usually told her that I was busy with classes in the morning, so I rarely answered her calls the moment the call connected. The sound of my mom crying came through. She kept chattering to me about what happened last night. It turns out that after marriage, my sister and Lu Shafang have always been very sweet, inseparable, but less than 2 months after marriage, problems started to arise. Although marriage brings a home, married life still requires taking responsibility for the daily necessities. My sister is the only one working while Lu Xiaoyang's job is hitting walls everywhere. On top of that, due to the pandemic, the economy is in a slump, and their income is far from keeping up with their expenses until last night when my sister complained a couple of times. Lu Shaifang suddenly flew into a rage and slapped her across the face. The conflict between the two of them escalated instantly with fighting and smashing things. In the end, my sister was knocked unconscious by a punch and ended up in the hospital. By the end of the conversation, my mother was still sobbing. They haven't been married for long, and it's already come to this, fighting and arguing. "Yunji, I remember you studied psychology in college. Do you think Lu Shaifang will?" The other end of the phone was unusually quiet. Without saying more, I knew my mother must be at the hospital. Who knows if the murderer is listening nearby? If I accidentally say the wrong thing, I'll definitely end up with a terrible death. So, interrupted her, trying to comfort her earnestly. "Mom, even if I've studied it, I'm not a professional. Besides, it was just an elective course taken to earn credits. That's not the point. The problem is that it was a mistake my brother-in-law made when he was young. And foolish. Why do you keep bringing it up if it weren't for my sister being clumsy with words and angering my brother-in-law? How could he have ever laid a finger on her? All right, a student is here to see me. We'll talk later." I didn't give her a chance to continue arguing and hung up the phone directly. Marrying a murderer was a path Su Yuneo chose for herself. In my previous life, I tried to stop her forcefully and ended up meeting a terrible fate. Respect others' fates in this life and let go of the savior complex. I still made time to visit my sister in the hospital for no other reason than to see how wonderfully she's doing now. After being so determined to marry a murderer back then, I brought some fruit to visit, only to see my sister lying in bed with casts on her leg and arm. The bruises on her face have faded quite a bit, but you can still tell the fight was intense that night, especially the purplish-black circles around her eyes, which looked just like AP Anda's as her own sister. Seeing her like this still makes me feel quite sorry for her. But then I remember how in my past life, Lu Shape-Fong strangled me to death, and she coldly helped cover it up, even at my funeral when she said those words. The anger in my heart immediately overwhelmed the last trace of sisterly affection. I treated her like my own sister. But what about her? She had a heart of compassion, but she used it all to sympathize with murderers. So I secretly pinched myself, holding back the urge to laugh, and then stepped forward with a concerned expression to ask, "Sister, how are you feeling now?" My sister immediately started pouring out her heart, saying she was in pain here and there. In the end, tears kept streaming down her face, and she looked at me with teary eyes, asking, "Tell me, how could he be so heartless if it weren't for Mom being there? Would he have beaten me to death?" I didn't say it out loud, but deep down, I thought she was right. In my spare time, I had looked up the information about Lu Xiaowang's past misdeeds back then. When Lu Shape-Fong had a quarrel with someone, he would follow them afterward, and taking advantage of their lack of vigilance, hit them on the back of the head with a brick, even if the other person fell unconscious. He did not stop until they lay completely motionless. Afterward, he even calmly went to the police station to turn himself in. It is said that the person he hit had a large dent in the back of their head, a truly horrifying sight. However, because he turned himself in and did not cause the other person's death, only leaving them in a vegetative state, he was only imprisoned for 10 years before being released. A convicted attempted murderer. This time, he only beat my sister into the hospital. So, he really went easy on her. Seeing my sister still looking at me with red eyes, I quickly comforted her. "What nonsense are you talking? You're his wife, the closest person in the world to him. How could he possibly beat you to death? I think the reason he did this is because he loves you too much and cares about you too deeply. Think about it. If it weren't for love, why would he care so much about what the other person says?" My sister was amused by my words, letting out a laugh as she wiped away her tears, and said with a smile, "That's true. I won't say such things carelessly again. I never imagined that this time I would once again be just one step away from death because, right after my sister finished speaking, she immediately called out in the direction of the bathroom, 'Honey, did you hear that now?' A low, gloomy response came from the bathroom. 'I heard you.' A simple exchange enough to make my scalp tingle and my hair st and on end. I couldn't imagine what would have happened if I hadn't had the experience from my past life. If I had escaped the previous incident and persuaded my sister this time, I'm afraid the other person would have come straight out of the bathroom, either stabbing me to death with a knife or strangling me outright. My spine chilled as I quietly watched this usually cheerful and exceptionally amiable sister. She acted as if nothing had happened, looking at Lu Shape-Fong as he emerged from the bathroom. This was the first time I had seen this murderer up close. He was wearing a black windbreaker and a baseball cap with a slender and thin build, but his entire demeanor exuded a gloomy aura. Fair-skinned, even with a pair of downtrend eyes, he still looks refined and somewhat handsome compared to the honest and simple brother-in-law from my previous life. He indeed has a significant advantage in both looks and physique. Seeing him approach, my sister gently took the hand of Lu Xiaofang, who had just come out of the bathroom, and sat beside her, and spoke softly. "I already told you my family is kind-hearted, even though you hit me, as long as you show a good attitude, and admitting your mistake. They won't blame you. I'll let it go this time, but from now on, you have to love me properly, and not bully me." Lu Shape-Fang glanced at me, and gave my sister a faint smile. "Yes, I promise I won't bully you anymore." The two of them were all lovey-dovey, so I made an excuse about having something to do at school, and hurriedly said goodbye. Even after getting into the taxi, my heart was still pounding wildly. It seems that from now on, I not only need to keep my distance, but also be more cautious in my daily words and actions. In the days that followed, Indeed experienced a period of calm, yet busy time. I thought this tranquility would continue, but it was eventually disrupted by my mother and the others. That day, while I was grading exam papers, my mother's urgent, relentless phone call came again. I didn't answer the first time, and ignored it the second time as well, seeing that my mom had a tendency to keep calling until I picked up. I had no choice but to answer the phone. Mom, what's wrong again? I thought it would be like last time with my mom immediately jumping into the matter anxiously. Who would have thought my mom would say, "What? You're my daughter. Can't I just call you for no reason?" I graded papers while listening to her ramble on. Finally, my mom said, "Actually, there's something else I wanted to talk to you about today." I finally understood. The first few minutes were all just a setup, and now we were getting to the main point. Seeing that I didn't respond, my mother told me the whole story. It turned out that after the last incident, my sister had Lu Shape-Fong switched to a food delivery job. Lu Shape-Fong was very satisfied with this job. The pay was good, the wages were timely, and most importantly, there were no barriers to entry, no need to interact with too many people, and no one cared about his criminal record. However, after working for a few months, problems still arose just because the customer lived on the 6th floor and ordered almost every hour, and he kept getting assigned to this customer every time he accepted an order. He got angry. He privately messaged the customer complaining that the customer was too annoying and shouldn't order takeout so frequently, causing him to keep climbing the stairs. The customer wasn't an easygoing person either, and the two got into a verbal argument. In the end, when the customer opened the door to get the takeout, Lu Shape-Fong pushed the door open and got into a physical fight with the customer. As a result, the customer was beaten by Lu Shape-Fong and ended up in the hospital. The customer dem and compensation for various expenses totaling a full 180,000 yuan. Of course, if this money is not paid, the other party will file a lawsuit, given the severity of the injuries. If sued, Lu Shaofang is highly likely to face imprisonment again. Upon hearing this, I gasped in shock. It could potentially turn into a criminal case. It seems the other party was severely beaten by him. Upon further inquiry, it was indeed the case. The other party not only suffered a concussion, but also had a rib and a leg broken by Lu Shape-Fong, especially the broken ribs. It said that if they had gone 2 inches deeper and pierced the heart, it would have been fatal. My mother started crying again, saying, "Yuni, I know you haven't been working long and haven't saved much money, but your sister and I have no other choice. So, we can only ask if you can help out a bit. You only have this one sister. If even you don't help her, she really has nowhere else to turn." I really feel like throwing up. In my past life, it was because of these words that I was morally coerced until the day I died. I contributed both money and effort, yet I ended up with a miserable death. I sighed and pretended to be helpless as I spoke. "Mom, you already said I haven't been working long and have no money. I'm still paying off my loan and installments after paying the loan, rent, and living expenses with my salary. There's really not much left. If you don't believe me, I can show you. I only have a few hundred left for food." Of course, my mom wouldn't listen and continued to nag. "Mom knows, but I was thinking, do you know anyone you could borrow from? Or maybe you could ask your aunt or uncle to lend you some money. Don't worry, this money will be repaid by me and your sister in the end." I was truly shocked by her, even going so far as to think of having me borrow money for my sister. Especially the thought of having me ask relatives to borrow money for my sister made me feel even more disgusted. I said directly, "I can't borrow from anyone around me. We're all poor teachers. Where would we have extra money to spare? Besides, since it's about borrowing from my aunt and uncle, why isn't my sister the one asking? So, you want me to borrow, and I'll be the one paying it back later. right? You really think I'm a fool? My mother insisted. Isn't it? Because we can't borrow. You know, since you were little, your aunt and uncle have always favored you the most. In their eyes, you're studious and reliable, and they trust you. If you ask, they'll definitely help. These words truly exemplify the phrase going to any lengths for my sister to the fullest. I flatly refused. No, I won't lend it. If I really go and ask, what will I say when my uncle and aunt ask me why I need the money? I can't possibly tell them it's because my brother-in-law beat someone up and needs compensation, and I'm borrowing it from my sister. Can I? Sure enough, my mom immediately said, of course, we can't say that. How about this? Isn't it possible to apply for credit cards now? You can get a few and rotate them or take out a bank loan. You have a stable job and can provide collateral. So, it should be easy to get a loan. This should work, right? No need to ask anyone for help. Don't worry, even though your sister will use the credit cards, she promises to pay them back. I really want to say, why don't I just grab a rope and hang myself in front of you? But I really can't say that. Lu Shape-Fong is an unpredictable person. If I say the wrong thing, and he comes after me with a knife, then this second chance at life would have been wasted. On second thought, I started crying too. And while crying, I apologized. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm useless and can't help you. Hearing me cry, my mom, who had been sobbing, was stunned. She quickly said, don't cry. Yunji, why are you crying? It should be me and your sister who cry. Look at the mess Lu Shape-Fong has caused. I started making things up. Back then, for the interview, I had already gotten a credit card to buy high-end clothes. Later, when I started working, the families of the students I taught were quite well off. As a teacher, I couldn't keep wearing my old, worn-out clothes. Could I? So, I maxed out my credit cards long ago. I also borrowed from online lending platforms. And because I couldn't repay the money on time, I became a delinquent borrower. Even if I want to buy a house in the future, I'll have to pay in full because I won't be able to get a loan. I'll have to rely on you. And my sister then. My mom on the other end of the phone fell silent, her words becoming hesitant. Oh, I see. If you can't get a loan, then you can't get a loan. It's not a big deal if you don't buy a house. I see many young people nowadays not buying houses, and renting is quite nice, too. Besides, as a girl, you'll get married in the future. Buying a house is naturally the man's responsibility. Let's not talk about this for now. Your sister just called me. My mom quickly hung up the phone as if afraid I would immediately turn around and start draining their resources. Seeing that this tactic worked, I regretted not using it sooner. Fortunately, I'm the only one in the office right now. Otherwise, my earlier antics would have definitely made my colleagues think I'm crazy. After dealing with my mom, life finally returned to normal. I heard that my sister and my mom went around shamelessly borrowing money from all our relatives. Of course, the economic situation isn't great these days, and even in better times, not many people are willing to lend money. My mom and my sister begged all our relatives and managed to borrow 60,000 yuan for the remaining 120,000. My mom gritted her teeth and directly mortgaged the house, finally managing to gather the amount the other party but all of this had nothing to do with me anymore. Only my aunt and uncle brought up the matter, each of them frustrated and disappointed to avoid them being resented. I only hinted subtly that this was my sister and her aunt's affair, and we should respect her choice. In a word, my aunt and uncle stopped talking about it. After all, we are family, and no matter how much we try to avoid meeting, there are times when it's unavoidable. I saw my sister again. 2 months later, my mom was busy cooking in the kitchen, and in the living room, my sister was holding Lu Xiaoyang's arm, showering him with praise. Actually, People only learn what it means to cherish something after going through hardships. For example, your brother-in-law and I have truly become a couple who have weathered storms together. What happened last time is in the past now, and your brother-in-law has realized his mistake. He treats me even better than before. Seeing her, leaning happily against Lu Xiaofeng, I could only smile and agree. That's natural. As long as you two are doing well as a couple, nothing else matters. My sister laughed heartily and sent Lu Xiaofeng to help our mother. Finally, she leaned in close to me and shyly said, "You silly girl, you probably didn't understand." And all the meanings behind what I said was good. I mean, compared to before, your brother-in-law treats me even better now. He puts on a good show, is more gentle, and even considers my feelings. Oh, you're just an unmarried young girl. You wouldn't understand. And even if I told you. Anyway, you're not getting any younger either. It's about time you settle down. I gave an awkward smile. Marriage isn't something to rush. Nowadays, many people marry and have children later in life. Besides, as teachers, we need to get promotions to earn a bit more. I'm currently a homeroom teacher and don't have much time for dating. What about you? Sis, you and my brother-in-law have been married for a year now. When are you planning to have a baby? It seemed like the words had hit the mark. My sister gently stroked her still flat stomach, a look of happiness on her face. I'm pregnant. The doctor said it's been over a month. We just found out a few days ago. Unfortunately, your brother-in-law hasn't found a suitable job yet. But it's not a big deal. If he doesn't have a job, so be it. Mom found a live-in nanny job a few days ago, and the pay is quite good. As for your brother-in-law, he's taken on the role of a full-time caregiver for me at home today. Since Mom is off, we thought it'd be nice to have you back for a meal and share this happy news. I quickly nodded in agreement. That makes sense. Since you're already pregnant, you'll need someone dedicated to help with postpartum care once the baby arrives. I'm sure your brother-in-law will take excellent care of you. During the meal, I tried my best to act naturally, careful not to show any signs of unease. As usual, after finishing the meal, I made an excuse about having things to do at school and hurriedly said my goodbyes. Summer vacation arrived quickly, and I once again applied to the school for training and went to another city to study. In short, after being reborn, I tried every possible way to stay as far away from this family as I could. Actually, in my previous life, my sister and that brother-in-law of mine also had a child after the child was even born. My mother used that same trick again, using moral blackmail to force me to cover even the cost of the baby formula. Baby formula should be imported, costing 400 to 500 yuan per can. At first, when the child was small, they would consume 1 or 2 cans a month. As they grew older and their appetite increased, they would go through more than a can a week. I only earned 4 to 5,000 yuan a month, and more than half of it is spent on buying formula for my nephew. Even so, I haven't heard a single word of thanks from my sister. I help her raise her child, yet she and my mother pity other Famil families' daughters are being exploited by their own families and treated as brothers supporting slaves, never once considering how I, as their daughter and sister, have been exploited by them. Fortunately, this time, I was the first to cry poor, at least so far they haven't approached me again about money, although my salary isn't high. I finally have my own little nest egg. I never expected that my sister's marriage, which she thought was happy, would be so short-lived this time. The call came from my aunt. As soon as I answered, I heard my aunt urgently saying to me, "Yinny, something's happened. Your sister was beaten by your brother-in-law again, and this time it's quite serious. She even lost the baby in her womb. Please come to the hospital quickly." I actually didn't want to go, but I couldn't resist my aunt's urging. I gave a perfunctory response before packing up and heading to the hospital. Compared to a month ago, my sister looked noticeably much thinner this time, She leaned against the bed, her eyes vacant, just crying nonstop in the hospital room. Besides my aunt, my mom was also there. As for Lu Xiaofang, he was kneeling on the floor, slapping his own face while apologizing to my sister. Yuna, I'm the one to blame. I couldn't control myself. I really know I was wrong. Will you forgive me? My sister didn't speak, but when her gaze fell on me, she burst into tears with a loud cry. Yunji, you finally came. Her crying startled me, and then my sister wailed again. Look at what your brother-in-law has done. My good child, he beat it out of me. Sister Yunji, I want to divorce him. You're a teacher. You've read the most books. And I know you have 2 classmates who are lawyers. Contact them now. Have them draft a divorce agreement for me. I want to divorce him. In a word, not only was my mother staring at me, but even Lu Xiaofang was looking at me with an ambiguous expression. If you really want to get a divorce, you should handle it quietly without making a scene in front of everyone. It's clear that even if I hadn't come today, my sister had already set a trap for me. Seeing that I remained silent, my sister spoke up again. You're my own sister, and I believe what you say. You tell me when you encounter someone like this. I treat him so well, and he still should I get a divorce? I asked her, aside from my brother-in-law laying hands on you. How does he usually treat you? She seemed taken aback by my question, paused for a moment, and replied, He treats me quite well, basically, always giving in to me. I then asked, Do you still love my brother-in-law? She glanced at Lu Xiaofang, pursed her lips, and said nothing. I patted her and said, All right, don't answer. Just look at my brother-in-law's eyes. They're practically melting with affection. And you still say you don't love him. You know, my brother-in-law has been through psychological trauma before, Mom, and I have told you not to provoke him. Is it easy for him? You're his only family. If you divorce him, how is he supposed to live? Besides, losing the child wasn't the outcome he wanted. You can have another child, but if the 2 of you really get divorced, think about it carefully. Mom has been through this herself. She understands the way of marriage better than I do. Right, Mom. The older generation always has the phrase encourage reconciliation, not separation on their lips. I want to see what my mom has to say. My mom looked at my sister, then at Lu Xiaofang, and nodded. Your sister is right. You can have another child, but if the 2 of you don't stay together, you'll really have nothing left. Yuna, honestly, Mom also thinks Xiaowang's attitude in admitting his mistake is sincere. How about this? Let him write a letter of guarantee, and we'll consider the matter closed. What do you think? The Virgin Mary truly lives up to her name. My mom's words perfectly captured my sister's thoughts. She turned her head away, wiping her tears with a tissue, though her face showed reluctance. She had already agreed with her words. All right, Lu Xiaofang, this time, I'm forgiving you for the sake of my mom and my sister, but don't get too cocky. First, write me a 2,000 word letter of guarantee, not a single word less. As for what comes after, we'll see how you behave. This time, the murderer's gaze toward me held a hint of gratitude. I know that although he does have feelings for my sister, and truly doesn't want a divorce, this doesn't change the fact that he has a violent nature. After leaving the hospital building, I learned from my aunt that this time it was indeed my sister who provoked him. Because of a minor inconvenience, my sister started calling Lu Xiaofang a murderer, saying he deserved to be an orphan with no parents, which led to Lu Xiaofang flying into a rage and resorting to physical violence. My aunt still didn't quite understand, but I heard he did get into trouble before. If your sister really divorces him, it might not be a bad thing. I looked at my aunt seriously and asked, Auntie, do you really think my sister wanted to divorce Lu Xiaofang today? If she really wanted to, why would she make such a big scene? She did this just to get everyone to persuade her, and also to show Lu Shape-Fong that she has her family behind her while he has no one. Of course, if we blindly support her in getting a divorce, she can also shift the blame for having to divorce onto us. If something happens in the future, Auntie, what do you think will happen? My Aunt truly is someone who cares deeply for me, and I don't want her to become like my past self just because she said the wrong thing. Hearing this, she nodded along. I understand. And, Yenji, you should also keep your distance from them from now on. You're older now, and you need to think more about yourself in many matters. Also, if you ever face any difficulties, feel free to come to me anytime. Actually, I didn't just lie to my mom about maxing out the credit card. Later on, I also lied to her about the student loan for college because my college tuition was funded by my aunt, and she even gave me living expenses more than once. After I started working, I began trying to repay her, but my aunt refused every time. So these days, my life hasn't been as bad as it might seem. As for my mother and my sister, they reap what they sow, especially my sister. As far as I know, the last time she was beaten by Lu Shape-Fong and sent to the hospital was also because she spoke carelessly and provoked him. I have long said that Lu Shape-Fong is a murderer, especially a murderer of his nature, who harbors even stronger hatred toward others. When the accumulation reaches a certain level, this uncertain factor will erupt, causing immeasurable consequences. After returning to school, I moved again. Actually, ever since I was reborn, I have moved every once in a while, and each time I move, it's always within a 5-minute walk from the police station. Only then do I feel a sense of security. Yet even so, I feel increasingly uneasy. Even while asleep, I would be awakened by the slightest noise. Until this day, the blaring sirens of a line of police cars woke me, who was already tossing and turning. Unable to sleep, I leaned against the window and looked down. Several police cars were followed by an ambulance, speeding forward with their sirens blaring, making my heart race wildly. While I was still trying to figure out what was happening, my phone started vibrating. Frantically answering the phone, I heard an unfamiliar voice on the other end. Hello, is this Su Yuna and the family of Ms. Lee? I'm from the Funing 3rd Road Police Station. Something has happened to your family member, and we need you to come over. While talking to the police, I quickly got dressed. In just a few sentences, I had already figured out what was going on. It turned out that my sister had gotten into another argument with Lu Shaofeng. But unlike last time, this time Lu Shaoing flew into a rage out of humiliation and attacked with a knife, first cutting down my mother, then rushing into the room and slashing wildly at my sister. It was only when the neighbors heard my sister's screams that they called the police. But by the time the police broke in, it was already too late. My mother lay motionless in a pool of blood, having been stabbed more than a dozen times, with only her last breaths left. As for my sister, she was pinned down on the bed by Lu Shaofeng. Her skull was slashed, and she too suffered more than a dozen stab wounds compared to my mother. The situation is said to be slightly better, but not by much. Both were rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, while Lu Shaofeng, who had attacked with a knife, was apprehended on the spot by the police who broke through the door when I arrived at the hospital. The doctor who was treating my mother had just come out of the emergency room. When I asked about her condition, the doctor could only shake his head and say, "We've done everything we could." When my mother, covered in blood, was wheeled out, I could hardly bring myself to look. She lay motionless with her eyes closed, showing no signs of life. Her death was so sudden that she didn't even leave a final word. I asked the doctor, "Where's my sister? Wasn't there another person brought in for emergency treatment? How is she doing now?" The nurse beside me looked grave and said, "There's another injured person, still in critical condition." and the situation is equally dire. This was the consequence of my sister's actions, but seeing my mother's lifeless body still filled me with deep sorrow. The doctors worked tirelessly for a full day and night, and finally, my sister was transferred from the emergency room to the intensive care unit. The nurse told me that although the doctors had temporarily saved my sister's life, it was still uncertain whether she would survive. Ending outside the intensive care unit, I looked at my sister lying in bed covered in tubes and felt a wave of numbness inside. It wasn't until this day that the doctor spoke to me alone. He told me my sister might not make it. All her indicators were very poor. To prepare me mentally, they allowed me to go in and see her, perhaps for the last time. I changed into protective clothing and approached the person whose life was barely sustained by machines, as if sensing my presence. She slowly opened her eyes, tears streaming down from the corners. Yunji hearing this, I leaned in closer, trying hard to hear what she wanted to say. She called out to me weakly, and even though it was difficult for her to speak, she still managed to ask, "Why didn't you stop me?" I was taken aback and asked, "What?" She struggled to speak again. "Stop marrying a murderer." I finally heard what she said, clearly, but I was also surprised by her question when I looked into her eyes. I saw a different expression than before. There was pain, but more than that, there was regret for her to ask this unless she remembered everything. I gave a light smile and answered her, "Stop you since you've remembered everything. Don't you recall how I died in my previous life? I was strangled to death by him. But what about you? You shielded him, clearly married, yet you had an affair, and became pregnant with the murderer's child. Don't think I don't know. The reason he found his way to where I lived was because you opened the door for him, wasn't it? I've thought about it for a long time in this life, unable to understand, and why you would do such a thing. Later, I realized it's because you hated me. You hated that I had more education than you, and that even though our mother didn't love me, I still had the affection of my uncle, aunt, and GR and mother. So, you wanted me dead, too. Tell me what reason could possibly be worth risking my life to persuade you." My sister stared at me with wide eyes, tears streaming down her face, repeating only one phrase, "I'm sorry." I smiled. "No need to apologize to me, because I understand. And you don't truly realize your mistake. You're only regretting it now. Regretting that after marrying Lu Xiaofang, you provoked him and made him kill you. But you'll never regret what you did to me in your past life, and I will never forgive you." Half an hour after leaving the intensive care unit, my sister's condition worsened again. An hour later, the doctor declared that my sister no longer had any vital signs. Later on, I held a simple funeral for my sister and my mother. The house that was originally mortgaged became a foreclosed property, and I didn't even care to have it. As for the money they borrowed from relatives and friends, everyone expressed that in such a situation, with the person gone, the debt is cleared, and they could only accept their misfortune. 6 months later, I was presented with an opportunity for a transfer. This time, I did not give up this opportunity for anyone and went to another city to continue teaching. For the rest of my life, I will use my limited time not only to educate the next generation on how to study, but also to teach them how to be good people, establish the right values, and avoid becoming a cancer in society. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my past life, my sister preemptively bound herself to the non-competitive system, while I was forced to bind with the villainous beauty system. At first, her indifference to fame and fortune won her countless fans, but later she was exposed for fraudulent donations, tax evasion, and bribing directors using a designer bag her assistant had scrimped and saved to buy. Meanwhile, after I was labeled as vicious by the entire internet for snatching resources. I worked tirelessly to hone my acting skills and pursue my career, wearing my ambition on my sleeve, and finally skyrocketed to fame, winning the Best Actress award. My sister, consumed by resentment, stabbed me to death, and we were reborn together. This time, she was the first to bind with the vicious beauty system. It's my turn to be the best actress while you get blacklisted and sentenced. I smiled. Vicious beauty, the true horror of the system, she knew nothing about. 3 people stood in the cramped room. My sister Heidi, me, and the company agent. The agent looked disdainful, tossing 2 contracts in front of us. Your qualifications are not particularly outstanding, and the company originally did not intend to sign you. However, given that you two have the selling point of being twins, we have decided to give you a chance. The thick stack of A4 paper rustled loudly, and suddenly, I felt a bit dazed. The agent continued speaking, each word gradually aligning with my memories. Heidi, Wendy, you need to come up with a packaging point for yourselves. The company will only allocate an initial marketing budget of $2 million for you. Whether you can become popular depends entirely on your own efforts. I was just about to speak when my sister suddenly pushed me away. I stumbled, and my sister directly grabbed the agent's and please help me arrange the press release for the scheming villainess right away. The agent raised an eyebrow. You want to take the black and red route? It's not an easy path for newcomers these days. My sister nearly dropped to her knees. It's fine. I can handle it. Please help me arrange the press release as soon as possible. I'll unconditionally comply with any further requests. The agent naturally agreed without hesitation, though his expression was filled with suspicion. While it's certainly possible, I'd like to ask why. I finally snapped back to reality. I sneered coldly. Of course, the agent had no idea why. Only I know why. Because at this very moment, I heard the ding-dong sound in my sister's mind, successfully bound to the vicious beauty system. My sister turned her head and smiled at me without any concealment. Yes, both my sister and I have been reborn. In our previous lives, we both graduated from acting school, and when we signed with a company, we simultaneously awakened to a system. At that time, my sister was the first to bind with the no competition system, while I had no choice but to bind with the remaining villainous beauty system. The system's rules were simple. Every time we did something that aligned with the persona assigned by the system, we would receive a massive wave of traffic. However, the outcome brought by the traffic is like opening a blind box. You have to discover it for yourself. After my sister bound herself to the no competition, no strife system, she appeared to be non-competitive and non-confrontational on the surface. Yet she gained countless fans with just a few quotes. I believe that an outstanding actress doesn't need to compete for fame and fortune. They only serve as stumbling blocks to our progress when facing setbacks. Always remember the pure will remain pure. Accumulate strength over time, and justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. Fans all say that the entertainment industry is missing a pure and innocent little white flower like my sister. With the help of the system, my sister quickly rose to become a second-tier rising star. After that, she even starred in several female-led dramas, achieving a meteoric rise. As for me, opening my blind box has been quite a struggle. At first, it was all haters. I said on the show that making money is important, and I was called materialistic. I openly asked for roles on a variety show and was called a beggar. I said, I practice basic skills for 3 hours every day and was accused of being pretentious and scheming. No matter what I do, it's always wrong. In the end, I was criticized for not donating enough money to a little girl and was called heartless. The incident blew up so much that the company eventually gave up on public relations for me and decided to put me on ice with no other choice. I turned to my sister Heidi for help. She, being in the front line, could have easily helped me out of this predicament with just a single word. Yet, she simply said with a calm expression, "Endure it a little longer, and the storm will pass." I endured for 3 years. When the contract was about to expire, I thought signing with a new company would solve the problem. But the company suddenly exploited a loophole in the contract to claim $40 million in liquidated damages from me. With no way out, I had no choice but to rely on a wealthy patron. After gaining the patron's support, my situation changed dramatically. The patron intervened to warn the company, allowing me to terminate the contract normally. Through the introduction of a patron, I joined a well-known large company in the industry where resources were abundant. Even the scraps that fell through the cracks were enough to keep me well fed and comfortable with. Enough scripts in H, and I began to put in the effort, doing my homework and memorizing my lines. But my sister suddenly lost her composure. In the cafe, she splashed a cup of scalding coffee all over me. "Can't even H, and'll being put on ice. Wendy, how can you be so low? If you needed money, why didn't you tell me? You've really let me down." The agent chimed in. "You'd better leave the industry on your own. Don't drag your sister down and ruin her reputation." Leave the industry? That's out of the question. After being rejected, my sister began to lead the bullying against me with a vengeance on the set where she was the lead actress. Everyone had a small electric fan in the 40 degrees heat except for me. All the extras had cold drinks in their boxed meals, but as the second female lead, I only got hot water. Even worse, at her suggestion, the director started targeting me. They added a lot of physical punishment scenes out of nowhere, making me actually go through with it, and they wouldn't call cut until I couldn't take the punishment anymore. For the water scene, they didn't let me wear thermal underwear, and I had to freeze until I passed out before my assistant was allowed to pull me out. I could endure all of that, but later, even when I was giving a very emotionally charged performance, the director insisted I wasn't acting well, loudly scolded me for an hour, and then said I was holding up the entire crew's progress. My sister also took the opportunity to have someone film roadside photos, hinting that I have poor acting skills and a diva attitude. The investor couldn't st and wanted to back me up, but I thought of a new approach. Isn't it supposed to be a vicious beauty? Then let's just go bad all the way. I started going crazy on the haters, cursing them until they broke down. I began streaming every day with the content being reciting lines and talking about acting. There were a lot of haters, many of them stirring up trouble and cursing me. I sent them court summons one by one, publicly sued them, and made them pay until they were bankrupt. Then I made a high-profile charitable donation, publicly donating the money I won from the lawsuit. When I posted the announcement, I was quite provocative. "Didn't you say my donations weren't enough, and that I was heartless? Is this enough now? If not, I'll sue 2 more. Netzen said I was crazy. My sister and I are twins. In the past, whatever makeup she wore, I was required to wear the same style. So, I changed my styling as well, going for a bold look with heavy makeup, which firmly established my reputation as a villainous beauty. Instead, it greatly enhanced my overall appearance on camera. Later, my sponsor secretly stepped in and released the truth about my diva behavior. On set, the public isn't blind, and my reputation finally began to slowly turn around. Later on, as young people began to awaken to their values, the era arrived where supporting characters stole the spotlight and shone brilliantly. The seemingly perfect female lead was no longer the only coveted role. After several of my dramas featuring st and out villainous characters aired, my acting skills gained widespread recognition within the industry. Taking advantage of the momentum, my sponsor secured several major IP projects for me. I finally made a big hit and turned my life around to become a film queen. Meanwhile, my sister started to go downhill. I know exactly what kind of person she is. She claimed she didn't seek profit, but was exposed for fraudulent donations and withholding her team's salaries to do charity. She claims not to chase fame, yet she bribes directors for roles and maliciously deletes scenes of supporting actresses. The most ironic part is that she remains indifferent to others' fame and fortune while using a luxury bag bought with her assistant's hard-earned savings to bribe the director. Yet, when her own interests are threatened, she loses her composure faster than anyone else. When the wall falls, everyone pushes. Former colleagues from the same company have also come forward to expose her. Finally, my sister was completely banned from the industry. So, filled with resentment, my sister stabbed me to death, and we were reborn together. That's why this time she was the first to choose the villainous beauty system. She said, "Wendy, do you have any idea how much I envy you? Envy me? I don't know. Just as she doesn't know how much I envy her smooth and effortless start. How I envy a life where you don't have to serve wealthy patrons to be pampered with a ding. My no competition, no contention system for this lifetime was also bound. The trajectories of our lives seemed to begin to swap. My sister immediately said about crafting a persona. At first, she was more cautious, following my path by showing ambition on the show. And indeed, she was harshly criticized. Meanwhile, I had already reaped the initial benefits of being uncompetitive. But what I said is not exactly the same as what she said. I said, if you've tried your best, and it still doesn't belong to you, it means you don't have the ability to obtain it. Luck, background, professional skills, all of these are part of your abilities. Some abilities are hard to change in this lifetime. So, it's best to calmly make peace with fate. Take your time and put effort into the abilities that can be changed. This sentence once became the signature of many people. Even the dividends exceeded those of the previous sister, and the life trajectory of the sister also began to deviate. She couldn't even handle the most basic level of online bullying. Unable to bear the scolding and grievances, she approached her sponsor in advance. I don't know how my sister managed it, and she wouldn't tell me either. All she told me was one sentence: "Wendy, this time the sponsor is mine, and the blacklisting is yours. Of course, it's impossible to just come and shut me down right away." Her approach was to have her backers by a large number of trending searches about me bullying people on set. In the video, I beat the second female lead until she couldn't take care of herself. But what my sister didn't expect was that the outcome of this incident would push my popularity to a whole new level. You know, I have never engaged in any bullying behavior. If there was any, it must have been a scene from the show. The production team, seeing the overwhelming attention coming their way, immediately released official behind-the-scenes footage. This actually made everyone aware of my professionalism. The label of beautiful, strong, and tragic was quickly and firmly attached to me. It also allowed me to secure a resource ahead of time. As luck would have it, this resource was a turning point in my sister's previous life. On the surface, it was an ESSA-level blockbuster production, but due to major flaws in the script setup, my sister received a wave of criticism after starring in it in her previous life, nearly ruining her reputation prematurely. So when it was officially announced that I would play the female lead, my sister laughed so hard her stomach hurt. "Wendy, oh Wendy, I never thought that in this lifetime your reputation still couldn't be saved. Either quickly sell a kidney to pay the penalty or get ready to go downhill." I smiled back. This life for my sister is a BR and new beginning, but to me it never was. I had honed my professional skills for many years in my past life, and my acting was already flawless. This was a wealth that even death could not take away when this drama was criticized by the public. In my past life, I had already studied the script carefully. Although the character has many flaws, if the acting is strong enough, It can completely bring the two-dimensional character to life, break through the shackles, and turn the tide. My sister doesn't know that this is not my downfall at all. This is my stepping stone to immense wealth before the point of rebirth. The production team had already signed a letter of intent with my sister. After being reborn, she immediately resigned from the role without delay. In a hurry, the crew found a group of young actresses with no background, lacking work, and high cooperation for auditions. Naturally, those selected in this way would not have poor acting skills. I performed with the new supporting actress, and we had a great back and forth exchange. Although the script is set, we cannot change those awkward scenes. However, professional actors still have a lot of room to showcase their skills. Tone, small gestures, and micro-expressions can all be controlled. It's not necessarily the best to use the finest costumes and props, making everything serve the male and female leads. The female lead actress initially found it difficult to deeply immerse herself in the awkward script, relying solely on her professional skills to maintain her performance. So, I took her aside, and we talked about the script late into the night, really delving into it. I broke down and explained to her my insights into the female lead role for my past life. She quickly grasped the concepts, and we clicked instantly beneath the shabby exterior. We radiate the brilliance of gold and jade. After filming for a few days, the director couldn't stop praising us and immediately pulled me aside, saying, "Come take a look at the master tape." When I saw the master tape, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was as if the paper-thin characters had grown flesh and blood, breaking free from the shackles of the plot. Later, the shackles disappeared. The director finally began to address the bugs in the script. He hired someone to start revising the script, making changes while filming, fearing they wouldn't keep up with the schedule. We worked alongside the director to make the revisions. Every night at midnight, I would return to the hotel with a dizzy head, and at 5:30 in the morning, I would head to the set with swollen eyelids and eye masks on. It looks really tough, but I find this kind of life particularly joyful. Sister, Heidi will never know how much I envied this kind of life in my past life. Smooth sailing, no need to cater to investors to act freely, applying all the knowledge gained over a lifetime to the fullest, earning money with integrity due to the extra budget and time spent. The director mentioned needing to secure some sponsorship these days, and know this will inevitably attract many major investors, perhaps bringing in some newcomers or adding minor roles, which is quite common. But when I saw that woman's face, I still instinctively gasped. Although we hadn't met much in my previous life, I knew this person, Mrs. Linda, the wife of the financial backer. Mrs. Lin is no ordinary person. The day after my former patron decided to promote me, all my information was already on her desk, but at the time, she made no move. I later learned that as long as I wasn't used by the patron to transfer her assets, she truly didn't care. I even suspect she's eager for me to take on more work. So, the sponsor, and she can take a bigger cut. And I'm afraid the sponsor himself is just a pet that Mrs. Lin has elevated. Her background is extremely deep. The sponsor was at most a son-in-law who married into her family. If I can get in with Mrs. Linda, I'm afraid I might be able to climb even higher than with the sponsor. In my previous life, through my patron, I learned that Mrs. Lin had invested in a major project. By the time I won the Best Actress award, that project had already generated billions in wealth for her. If I could get even the smallest scraps that fell from their fingertips, it would be entirely possible to turn the tables and become a capital player in the entertainment industry. By the end of the day, the film crew and Mrs. Lin had basically signed the contract, with Mrs. Lin agreeing to fund the production with a substantial amount of money. I made the most of my time. That evening, I knocked on Mrs. Lin's door. Her tone was somewhat angry. "Do you Think I'm the kind of person who engages in the hidden rules of the entertainment industry. And I directly presented the contract. Madam, I would like to sign a performance-based agreement with you. In the luxurious presidential suite, dressed in formal attire, I sat across from Madame Lin, who was wearing silk pajamas. Behind her stood a well-dressed elderly British butler and a Filipino maid busily preparing a fruit platter. I opened the document folder directly, flipped through the contract, and it over. Madam, if your share of the profits from this drama falls short of 20 million, I will personally make up the difference. Mrs. Lin smiled faintly without saying a word, simply taking the contract. After a few seconds of rustling, Mrs. Lin's expression clearly showed she was beginning to take an interest in me. You're called Wendy, right? Before I could answer, Mrs. Lin continued, in this contract, the terms you've set for yourself are extremely harsh, and the profit-sharing ratio you're asking for after the bet succeeds is almost the lowest in the industry. She closed the contract and looked at me directly. You can be straightforward. What additional help do you want? I smiled openly and confidently. I could imagine that Mrs. Lin was already waiting for me to say something like asking for a leading role in a major drama or a big budget film. And I said, first, I would like to ask Madam to help personally oversee the quality of this drama and eliminate interference from other capital. This will greatly benefit your future dividends as well. Second, I carefully chose my words. I believe you are already aware of the matter concerning my sister. Madam's expression remained completely unchanged, as if I had just mentioned that she had recently adopted a small bird. I steady myself, swallow, and continue. I just hope no one with capital will force her into this production to cause trouble for me, including any future involvement with this series. I really don't want to see her do anything that harms both our shared investment and herself. Mrs. Lin extended her H and the butler H and her a pen. She signed her name with effortless grace. This is nothing. Turning to push the copy toward me, she said, if the dividends are substantial, I might be able to help with something in the future. I was a bit curious. Aren't you going to have a lawyer check the contract for any loopholes? Mrs. Lin put the cap back on her pen. If I can't even understand. And the contract, I might as well not have come out. Looking at the contract in my H, and I finally felt a sense of relief. Of course, I knew my sister would never be able to join this production in this lifetime. But if I had shown too much ambition from the start, it would have raised Mrs. Lin's guard, show a bit of that competitive side among women appropriately, just to let Mrs. Lin relax a little. Besides, with Mrs. Lin's sharp eye, she might very well see through it. But both sides are just playing along to keep the peace. The ladder to success has been found, and I need to work even harder at acting. After the investment was secured, the filming proceeded more efficiently. Soon after I finished filming, I seamlessly transitioned to a variety show. The concept of this variety show is quite novel, combining elements of dating shows and slow-paced reality programs with a focus on allowing male and female guests to develop relationships freely. As soon as we joined the production, we got a rough idea of some of the selling points. For example, they spent a fortune to invite a film emperor to live in the same group with his former on-screen partner, a film empress. For instance, they brought in a top idol known for his low-key persona and let fans vote to arrange his schedule. For example, they also invited Heidi, the older sister. Along with her came a young man from the company named Jack. Jack lived up to his name, being exceptionally dedicated to his work, from what I recall. In my past life, she was particularly fawning over the older sister from the company to the film set, from variety shows to her private life. In his past life, to protect his sister, he often argued with me and caused trouble when my vicious beauty persona acted up. The show started stirring up drama right from the beginning. During a game, They had the award-winning actors perform a kiss scene through plastic wrap. While cooking together, they had the top idol showcase his culinary skills, but the stove was tampered with, leaving him flustered and embarrassed. I originally had the task of promoting the drama here. The production team had arranged with the variety show crew to give me opportunities to mention the drama, but my sister started causing trouble in this life. She has taken on the persona of a vicious beauty, which is already a disastrous start, yet she doesn't hold back when it comes to hogging the spotlight. First, she suddenly appeared while I was doing a morning skincare product live broadcast and started applying smoky makeup, not only stealing the camera, but also taking away the promotion fee for the live broadcast. Then, when I was cooking, she stood by and nitpicked. To be honest, I really wanted to slap her, but at that moment, Jack appeared. He suddenly started defending me when my sister was cooking, and being ends off. He would assist me when my sister took over my live broadcast. He gave me his own opportunity to read ads during the broadcast. Gradually, the hashtag Jack and Wendy's CP started trending online, but I always felt something was off. I thought he liked women who don't compete or fight for things, but when he cooks, he always makes the dishes my sister loves. Moreover, he's a rich second-generation heir, so he doesn't really need the advertising revenue from live streaming. I quietly calculated every time my sister took a promotion opportunity from me, he gave me the exact same number in return. Not once less, but also not once more. It's as if I were helping my sister repay a debt. The most important evidence is that I once casually mentioned while cooking that I am allergic to corn, but he still made smooth corn juice for everyone at lunch. My sister has loved the taste of sweet corn since she was a child. I decisively instructed my assistant to pay attention to their private interactions. Sure enough, in an unnoticed corner of the break room, they were caught making out. Little one, still a loyal dog, been Heidi's dog in both lifetimes. Quite special indeed. My sister here really knows how to play the game, playing double agent with me. Ah, fine. I'll grant your wish. I started occasionally responding to his advances. Of course, not in a direct way, like taking a sip of the juice he made and saying, "It's good," or casually remarking, "You're amazing," when he talked about his career. The online CP fans are truly terrifying. They immediately edited together a short film on their own. As the final episode approached, my popularity surged once again. I don't know how angry my sister was behind the scenes, but I vaguely heard the sound of things being smashed. The final episode featured a confession segment for the ultimate choice. The best actress took the initiative to confess to the best actor, while the idol declared that she would remain single. And Jack walked in slowly with a bouquet of roses coming up to me. Then he suddenly turned on me. "Wendy, I always thought you were exactly as imagined. Gentle, calm, and unassuming. But from the time we've spent together, I think I was wrong. Truly generous in character." He and the rose to his sister. "It's for your sister, Heidi." A single stone stirred up 1,000. And waves. This quickly became a hot topic. Hashtag Wendy's two-faced nature. Hashtag Wendy's persona collapses. Hashtag Heidi has a generous personality. Hashtag Wendy's dark past. Hashtag Jack. And Wendy's CP bad ending. So that's what it was all about. I smiled in front of everyone. I pulled out a rose hairpin. I said, "The one I want to confess to has never been you." Everyone was stunned. Facing the camera, I held up the hairpin and spoke with grace and confidence. "My lord, I will always wait for you." After more than a dozen episodes, I finally have the chance to promote the show. Twitter servers crashed. The hot search list was filled with one topic. When the variety show wrapped up, my sister glared at me with a sinister look and laughed without restraint. "My dear sister, you're about to be finished." I remained calm and composed. "Is that so?" After the server was repaired, all the hot search topics were updated. Everyone saw the new top trending topic. Hashtag Heidi Jack on-screen couple. What a pity. The first to be ruined was my little snake sister, since I knew about Jack's little schemes. How could I possibly be unprepared due to my public image? I can't explain directly. I must remain calm and composed, but I can have someone leaked their information. Oh, it wasn't me who leaked it personally. I simply packaged the information and sent it directly to the studio email of a certain rising. Second-tier actress Heidi has offended plenty of people. I'm just one more. Logically speaking, this level of information should fetch at least a seven-figure sum. I've really gone all out on this on the trending list. Jack, shirtless, had his arm around Heidi's waist as the two of them, kissing passionately, entered the room. Nizins quickly uncovered the time and location, even deducing the hotel room number from the evacuation map. By analyzing the clothing season, they conclusively proved that the two had been involved for a long time. Everything instantly became self-evident. His deliberate approach, his later accusations of my duplicity, and his praise for my sister all turned into boomerangs that struck him right in the back. And my complete lack of response instantly became a direct reflection of my non-confrontational and uncompetitive nature. Netson, I'm crying my eyes out. Who underst? And Wendy explains and promotes the work, but doesn't defend herself. No need to say more. I'll definitely watch Sister W's next drama 20 times. Add me to that count. Plus 1000086. This is my own war. I don't need anyone's help. But Mrs. Lin took the most crucial step. She used her solid connections to expedite the review. The drama, originally scheduled to air next year, has been unexpectedly released while the hype is still high. In fact, this has given my sister a chance to catch her breath. After all, new trending topics can overshadow old ones, and over time, people will forget about these messy affairs as soon as my drama aired. It claimed the top spot in the daily ratings in her previous life. My sister filmed this drama, and the pre-release marketing was also very thorough. However, due to major flaws in the script, it quickly started strong but ended poorly, receiving widespread criticism. In the end, the last few episodes were even reported and sent back for re-editing. This was a devastating blow to the investors, and this time on the second day of the broadcast. A sudden flood of negative publicity flooded the fan community. The production team was in a panic, contacting my agent to handle the crisis PR. I also spent about half an hour studying the press release. Then I told them, there's no need to do anything. Just make sure extreme anti-fans don't report it. Hold out until the 14th episode, and everything will fall into place. Everyone was left bewildered by my words because I had seen all these generic statements before. All the core copy was plagiarized from the top negative reviews of this drama in its previous life. When I was filming this drama, I also started revising the script only after shooting over a dozen episodes. So, there were indeed some minor issues in the first few episodes. Let the bullet fly for a few episodes. We should accept the existing problems. Rashly silencing voices will only provoke public resentment, and by then it will truly become uncontrollable. But no one knew that I had my agent spend hundreds of thousands and to boost one of the negative posts predicting the plot. Now, although my agent doesn't underst, and given my current development trend, he has and over the decision-making power to me, this post was pushed to a lower position on the trending list. The production team looked at the content of the prediction post, and then at the actual content after episode 15, and immediately understood after fermenting for so many days. The slap in the face will be all the more resounding. The official blog took the opportunity to build some hype that day. Broadcast once again topped the ratings chart, even surpassing the first episode. If you think about it, Mrs. Linda should be able to make quite a bit of money this time. Then the word of mouth quickly reversed. The core values that followed were completely opposite to what the Black Posts had predicted. Even the bugs from the first few episodes turned into foreshadowing after the 15th episode aired. Netizens immediately flooded the Black Posts. It seems like you, the original poster, are suffering from some kind of delusion. Is it really that hard to admit that others are excellent? I admit I was led astray. I'm sorry. The production team can achieve great things. Wendy's acting skills are absolutely amazing. The supporting actress is also incredible. The feeling of being able to keep up with the acting is so satisfying. Hey, do you think these negative posts might be the work of her crazy sister? It's possible. Has anyone tried to dig into the real identities behind those marketing accounts? Now, it's the sister's turn to figure out how to cover up her underwear. The sister should be grateful that her time as a crew couple with Jack happened before she found a sugar daddy. I know the sugar daddy's personality well. It could torment her half to death. Later, the paparazzi took photos of her at the hospital. When I came out, my leg was wrapped in bandages. I shook my head. I wonder if she has started to feel regret. But I know the me from the past life. The her in this life. There is no way back. I am ready to face the next wave of crisis public relations. Soon, a new trending topic emerged. Still about me. Hashtag Wendy bullying on set. Hashtag Wendy throws her weight around. Yes, my sister, Heidi, hired someone and prepared another wave of negative trending topics about me fabricating something out of thin air carries too much risk. So she chose something she knew about, changing the plot. The online rumors are spreading like wildfire, claiming that I altered the script to give myself more scenes and stole the spotlight from the supporting actress. They even manipulated public opinion, insinuating that I was engaging in bullying with the topic trending nonstop. I think she must have appeased her sugar daddy, but she forgot public opinion was never on her side from the start. Back when she suddenly quit the role of the second female lead, she really angered the director to fill her vacancy. The director spent both money and effort, even humbling himself to ask for favors, and he's been holding a grudge ever since. The director immediately shared the records of our small group script discussions, and written revision drafts, and some phone call recordings. Nothing else, just a strong endorsement of me and the new female lead, even thanking us for our contributions to the rebirth of the script. Netizens, having experienced one plot twist after another while watching the show, have become more cautious. They chose to dig into it themselves. This digging turned out to be significant, as detailed comparisons between the original script and the revised version were uncovered. Someone has spotted the flaw. Why do the early negative publicity and the original script align so perfectly? Could it be that some people intentionally leaked it? SK, truly a heart as venomous as a snake in comparison. I realized that the ST and out scenes for the female lead were actually added by me, the main female character. My reputation was once beyond reproach. Of course, I have my own selfish motives, but I realized even in my past life that only when the work is good can one hold on to their job for the long term. Some dramas can remain fresh and relevant even after 20 years. I really love this feeling of receiving praise, gaining popularity, and reaping the rewards. So far, with the drama halfway through, the advertising slots are already fully booked. Calculating it, Mrs. Lin has already earned at least $35 million, even at the lowest profit sharing ratio. I've earned an extra 7-figure. I took my team on a crazy shopping spree when I was carrying all the bags back. Mrs. Lin called me. Wendy, you're really impressive. Do you want a custom drama or a high-budget film? I can arrange either for you. My grip on the phone tightened. In the end, I decided not to beat around the bush this time. Madam, I would like to ask you to help me invest in a project. Madam Lin was taken aback for a moment. but soon understood. She only said one thing: accompany me to the dinner party a week from now. I will send the gown and jewelry over to you. The recruitment is full, and expectations are high. When water is full, it overflows. When the moon is full, it wanes. At this point, if any more trouble is stirred up, it will backfire. Mrs. Lynn must have warned her husband, and to keep her sister in line. In any case, the drama didn't have much more controversy after that. All the way to the finale gained a high-quality work. Subsequent acting offers kept coming, and just the deposits alone amounted to 8 figures for me. This was a level of wealth I could never have even imagined in my previous life. When Mrs. Lynn's gown and jewelry were delivered, I sat in the bathtub of the luxurious suite and cried my heart out. The sugar daddy simply couldn't afford these. I tried on makeup 7 or 8 times before settling on a flawless mistake-proof look as I followed Mrs. Lynn into the venue. I felt as if I were walking on a ladder to the clouds. The difference was that this time I didn't have to sell my body, do things I disliked, take antidepressant hormones every day, or force myself to lose weight in unhealthy ways to hide the weight gain from the medication. This time, I was healthy, radiant, and full of hope. At the dinner party, I met the sponsor, to be precise. He was my sister Heidi's sponsor. He arrived with Heidi, who was dressed in a flashy manner, upon seeing Mrs. Lynn. However, he immediately bowed and scraped, saying, "Honey, you're here." Then he scolded the older sister. "Why aren't you holding up the lady's skirt?" The older sister bit her lip, her expression filled with grievance and resentment. The patron immediately slapped her. She could only struggle to cover her chest and bend down in her towering high heels. Mrs. Lynn walked ahead with me, and the patron following a step behind, and my sister at the very end, holding up the hem of the lady's skirt. I had never looked at the patron eye to eye like this before. A flicker of admiration passed through his gaze. As he looked at me, immediately furrowed my brows. The people at the banquet were all at the level of being the patrons of patrons. The backstage of backstage, ordinary celebrities in the entertainment industry rarely have the qualifications to interact with these individuals. So, immediately realized why the patron had brought my sister here to accompany them in drinking as well as accompanying people. He took Heidi, bowing, and scraping his way past the big shots one by one. There weren't actually many who liked her type. A lot of wine was drunk, but not many contact details were obtained. The sponsor quickly lost their composure. The older sister also quickly lost her composure. She thought Mrs. Lynn and I were in a competitive relationship, waiting for me to get even more drunk. Mrs. Colleen's family background is truly formidable on our side. Everyone communicates on equal terms. Although I am only an assistant, in the world of fame and fortune, it's all about who stands behind you. Everyone has shown me a certain level of respect. Occasionally, when someone tries to pull a fast one, I handle it with ease. If I couldn't even manage that, I'd be letting Madam down. I finally managed to secure a collaboration of my own. Even the most insignificant project in their and is enough for me to step into the ranks of capital in the entertainment industry. On the other and Heidi, she is without a doubt a plaything, perhaps influenced by alcohol. She went crazy holding her wine glass. She started tiptoeing and shouting into the microphone on her own. After shouting a couple of times, she actually started to speak without restraint about the intimate details of her and her patron's bedroom affairs. Madam Lynn's expression finally turned rather unpleasant, although she had fulfilled the duty of continuing the family line and could treat this husband and as if he were heir. In the end, it would still bring shame upon her. I made a quick decision, stepped forward, and slapped my sister across the face. Then I covered her mouth and took her away with the security guard. As for covering up the lie afterward, that has always been the specialty of the financial backer. By the time my sister woke up in my villa, the world had completely changed. She directly received the company's notice of being shelled and a claim for compensation. Yes, all her SC undulls were laid out transparently before everyone. She was filming until 11 p.m. with a daily salary of $208 million. Yet, she disagreed with her assistant leaving work at 9 p.m. saying, "Your boss is still working, and you're already off duty." When she first became popular, a big fan volunteered to be her assistant, and washing her underwear, and serving 8 dishes per meal. Yet, she didn't pay the fan a single cent in wages. Later, the big fan couldn't take it anymore and ran away, and she argued righteously. "So your love is tied to money. How cheap." She talks about doing charity work every day, but in her care for leukemia patients, there isn't a single cent of material aid, just and written letter saying that with her encouragement, the patient will surely recover. As for medical expenses, don't even think about it. This incident also affected the company's stock price, and the most outrageous thing was because her assistant complimented my makeup. She used the excuse of trying on a dress to make her assistant ST and outside in the freezing winter for 2 hours wearing only underwear. This directly led to the assistant developing pneumonia, leaving her with permanent after effects. Other things are just SC undulls. This matter constitutes the crime of intentional injury. Not only will she be completely banned, but she'll also have to spend a few years behind bars. She accompanied men for drinks and slept with them all for nothing in the end before my sister was taken away. She talked with me for a long time. She said, "Wendy, I'm going to die. You know." I calmly stood up and poured 2 glasses of water. I said, "I know. I've always known." She suddenly raised her head. I sighed. The ultimate mission of our system is to become capital, but the 2 systems behave differently. Originally, the punishments were different. I pointed at myself. If the system fails without striving or competing, I will end up with nothing. Damn, the venomous beauty will die. So in my previous life, I sold out everything to get ahead. I just wanted to live. That's all. I talked with her for a long time again, from anger to calmness. Then, too, reminiscing about the past with tears in the eyes unexpectedly. I said a lot of heartfelt words until the police arrived. She said, "In the next life, let's not be sisters anymore." I said, "Okay." After my sister was taken away, I dialed Mrs. Lynn's number. "I have a big gift I want to give you." By the time Mrs. Lynn arrived, all the evidence had been neatly placed in a file folder by me. All the evidence of your husband's infidelity and asset transfers is right here. Madam, I believe you can certainly make him leave with nothing, not even a pair of underwear. The madam smiled. "Since your useless sister is already a lost cause, from now on, you can call me sister." I was taken aback for a moment before I understood what Mrs. Lynn meant. "In the future, you will be one of my assets. I will recognize you as my sworn sister. You will help my career reach new heights, and I will ensure you a life of peace and prosperity." Mrs. Lynn extended her and, "What do you say? Shall we cooperate?" I also extended my and, "I will do my best." Sister, after winning the GR and Slam with several blockbuster films, I announced my semi-retirement from the industry. Now I only take on roles I truly love when I have the time, refining my craft purely to fulfill my life's purpose. Most of the time, I'm accompanying Mrs. Lynn, my sworn sister, drinking tea, and reviewing contracts. Life is busy and fulfilling. I look at the asset plan in my and think, why not start a brokerage firm? I can definitely help more people who are as lost as I once was. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.